Tell us about the tattoos.
Shut the fuck up, you little prick.
But then I've got the Phoenix.
Hey, prick.
So I'll take it from Bob every day of the week.
Absolute disgrace.
I'm sure no one will mind.
Move him out of here, Derek.
Ricky Hatton didn't go over for his fighter because he risked getting abducted and sold into sexual
I never said that.
Both have been rape victims. I'm not watching Frank Buglioni live on Saturday night. You're out of your mind.
Jesus Christ, get yourself a life.
He's actually a priest.
Yeah.
It's because his brother John Fury eye gouged him.
What have I told you all this time? He's going to end up sucked out, fucked out, looking for a handout.
Boxing, nutters, messenger group. I'm gonna be the king.
J-Pump, you know what I'm saying?
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the 508th edition of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast. I'm your host, Steve Wellings, and joining me on the call, we have Andy Patterson and Matty Di Gialinardo, going live on YouTube from 8 o'clock every Sunday evening. The Patreon RSS feed updates shortly after the show concludes. And hello to everybody listening throughout the week on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Don't forget to leave a review on the podcast player of your choice throughout the entire month of January, and nothing less than 5 stars is acceptable. Unrivaled work this weekend. Podcast Friday night, hour and 20 minutes. Podcast last night, nearly 45 minutes. Back again tonight. 5 dislikes on last night's offering, Matty. What could we have possibly done to offend these people?
5 dislikes?
Yeah.
What a bunch of cunts.
Up till midnight.
I don't know what they apparently you ask what they want from you, Steve. They want you to go to bed, apparently. So
it's probably my wife on her burner accounts on it.
Mrs. Wellington, thumbs down, thumbs down, thumbs down.
Yeah, fuck Mrs. Wellington, as I say. We shall move on with the boxing action and do another 3 hours just to spite her this evening for episode 508. I think that's the main thing. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Hopefully they're having a good time. We'll give them a shout out very shortly. Scroll up and down, see what's going on. Ozzy is hoping to join us as well, so is rapping Rob Kelly at some point. Only one place to start last night. Wembley Arena, Saturday the 28th of January 2023. 8th round TKO for Mr. Artur Beterbiev over Anthony Yarde. All the 3 belts, 3 of the 4 major belts are on the line. Scores of 67-66 apiece and a 65-68 in Yarde's favour. Not really sure how they came to that conclusion. We did speak about it last night in the post-fight pod. Go and have a listen to that if you want to hear raw and unfiltered opinions last night. But we're going to have a bit of a breakdown tonight as best as we can. Matty, I thought for all of your good work, Yarde had to fight to his absolute limit to stay in the fight. And Beterbiev, I think he looked a little bit sluggish at times, a little bit winded. He always seemed to me like he had another gear or two to reach at times over his front foot. I think he looks so much better whenever he's leaning back, committing to that double jab, nice and orthodox, rather than leading off with those power shots. He uses the jab more and more whenever he respects an opponent. We saw that against Gvozdyk, and I think it's testament to Yarde's performance on the night that the Russian had to be patient and he has to systematically break Yarde down.
Yeah, Yarde came in and he fought hard. It seemed like he was gassed early, but he got a good second wind. Was probably winning the rounds in the late half of the or in the last couple rounds of the first half of the fight. And then kind of late in the 7th round, it seemed like Beterbiev just kind of got tired of it, and he cornered Yarde, did some wailing away to the body, caught a couple too, but they didn't really deter him. And from there, the 8th round, he came in and went for the kill on that one, and obviously got it, which was funny because the odds for the fight, watching them live after the 7th round, Yarde had come to paying only even money. So the betting public thought it was a pretty pretty even fight at that point in time, if that says anything. But you got to give it to Beterbiev for just kind of holding in there and doing what he does best. I mean, if there's a more useless job in the world than being a judge of a Beterbiev fight, you tell me, Steve. There's no, why are you here? You just get it fucking taken up space. Could have sold a ticket, made another fucking $6 or $7 grand, but they give them to these fucking judges. No point. But for Yarde, I think what he did right, Steve, and it's you have to find your moments to fight Beterbiev. You can't do it all the time, and I think Yarde went too far to pick too many moments to do it. But you do have to pick those moments. You do have to land hard. You have to get his respect, or he will just mow you down. I thought that again we saw one of the best light heavyweights in the world. But after looking and seeing some of the things that Yarde did that troubled him, I don't know that he's the best 175 in the world now. I kind of favor Bivol should they fight at this point in time. And I'm also curious, no one's coming to mind, but kind of a more squat fighter that can fight small, and it can fight short, and also has good speed, can use the ring. Someone like that, I think could give Artur a lot of fits. But until he runs into those people, he's dynamite. 100% knockout record. The guy's absolutely incredible.
He certainly is. 19-0, 19 KOs. Hashtag sack the judges. Slappy Gilmore says, give Beterbiev an inch and he'll take a yard. Good stuff there. Andy was on with us last night as well. One thing I liked from Beterbiev, Andy, was his footwork and his composure. There was occasions when Yarde landed a couple of solid shots, left hook particularly, a little bit of an uppercut here and there. He powered forward to capitalise, and all of a sudden, Beterbiev just expertly moved out the way, turned Yarde, and suddenly it was Yarde backed on the ropes, shipping a few shots within the blink of an eye, and the crowd died down. It was subtly effective work from the champion.
Yeah, if I get what round it was, there was a situation, it might have been the 7th, I think, where Yarde's actually kind of got Beterbiev backing up a little bit, maybe got him buzzed. End of the day, Matty's mentioned, you pick your moments, so Beterbiev's backing off, and obviously Yarde's got a bit of confidence going. It might be unwise to kind of get into a trading fight with that guy, but as you've seen it, Beterbiev backed himself into the corner. Yarde's then came in, landed a few shots, and then Beterbiev is just literally spun out of distance, and then next minute Yarde's got his back in the corner, literally late in the round, and then Beterbiev starts putting together 4 or 5 punch combinations. I think he might have finished the round with a right uppercut that really buzzed Yarde a little bit, and obviously he's come out in the 8th and just basically bludgeoned him with that downward right hand. And obviously I've seen some complaints about the follow-up right hand that's eventually put him down. It's kind of like running about the ear, possibly behind the back of the head. Folk complaining it's an illegal shot. But yeah, we mentioned it last week in that. I mean, look, Beterbiev is that guy. He doesn't waste much. He doesn't much loads up, but he puts a lot of kind of power into his shots. There was one time, might have been the 2nd or the 3rd round, he got Yarde in the corner again, and he let go of right hand, and either it landed or it cuffed the glove, but it sounded like a gun going off actually. So you can only imagine what he's dealing with in there, Yarde. And we mentioned it last week again, that at some point in the fight he's going to have to stand in there and have his moments. And I was pleased that he did, because it was, we mentioned it last week about Yarde possibly stinking up a bit like Paul Butler. I'm glad he never. He certainly went out in his shield anyway as well. Well, you could say the right thing that the fight was to call the fight off, but I'm glad he had a go, and he did very well. What he did, but again, he's just up against an elite fighter who's just got too much for him, too much power for him, just too much savviness, experience, amateur background, all that ground and stuff and that as well, because Yarde's obviously took up the sport late. You just wonder as well if he'd maybe been matched slightly better coming up through the ranks at domestic level, getting some of those domestic fights, British, European level, like we always talk about, get that grounding, and then eventually step it up to world level, instead of mix some of these kind of like fringe European level guys and then get into fight Kovalev, and then obviously great showing against Beterbiev, but just came up short. But at the end of the day, he's got no disgrace. He fought one of the best fighters in the world just now, who is by and large class pound for pound. You can argue what rank you want to put that in at, but at the same time, he's a powerful hitter, very, very composed fighter. And what I will say, genuine nasty. Because if you put it on him or hurt him or daze him or whatever it is, he always just seems to come back and he's got the mean look on his face and he's let those punches go with mean intentions, with one intention only, just to try and knock you or just damage you. And it's really, I don't take the points, whereas people are saying that he got exposed. Beterbiev a little bit last night, because if he got exposed by Anthony Yarde, what the fuck did Enrico Colling do to him for 12 rounds? Basically ran. People are going to say, oh, he got exposed by a runner because he couldn't, chase him down for 12 rounds before he could knock him out. These are professional fighters. They're going to land shots at each other. They're going to have their moments. I thought Beterbiev was quite poised. The whole time, even though if he got buzzed or maybe kind of done up a little bit, I thought he handled it pretty well, to be fair. And at times when Yarde was having his opportunities, he even landed a few body shots. You could literally see Beterbiev just kind of eating them, and you could literally see it as well when they landed the shots. You could genuinely see that he was actually hitting a brick wall, and he just kept coming toward them, and that, in its own sense, with the physical punishment, the mental punishment as well. Say, I cannot get this guy off. I need to stand and trade a wee bit longer. But you stand and trade a little bit longer, you're going to throw your shots, you're going to gas. And I think about the fifth, possibly, the mouth was hanging open, very visibly, so possibly fatigue was starting to set in as well. But he kind of knocked his performance. He did fantastically well with what he was presenting with, at least.
All that matters, Andy, is it went more than 6.5 rounds.
Very true, mate. What was that? Me and you got was it over on that one?
You got it, amigo. You got it.
Well done, boys. Well done indeed. Yeah, I think Andre Ward was saying on the ESPN commentary feed, apparently, that after about 2 rounds, look, Yarde's going to be bollocks, and over the next 2 rounds, he's not going to have anything left. He'd either seen him before, or judging by his makeup, the physical specimen that he is, that kind of stamina isn't going to be his forte. Andrew Thickett, channeling his inner Dominic Henry with the commentary, says a few of the foreign commentary teams were a bit perplexed by the cards. Yarde reached his phenotypic maxim, but gave him 2 rounds, all quite competitive though. That's a good comment there from Mr. Thickett. Also, Joe Kennedy here saying, I think Yarde did a lot better than expected. So people gave him rounds that were close, but he probably lost. Yeah, that does happen, doesn't it? If you do better than the previous round, or if you come in as the underdog, not expected to do much, if you're doing better than expected, people are likely to give you the rounds. That is a bit of a phenomenon in boxing. Matty, I was looking...
It's a bit like a mercy type thing, though, eh?
Do you think so?
Yeah, well...
Yeah.
It's a close-ish fight. I'm thinking possibly that's what's going in the 8th round. I think obviously the knockdown, but I think Beterbiev would have went into the lead. If that fight continued, I think that fight would be Beterbiev would have went into the lead at that point. So I don't see. Did you say there was 3 points? On
3 points on the Koreans card. Yeah,
that's wide. That's way wide. That is close. Possibly Yarde up by a point. No, sorry, Beterbiev up by a point on my card at least. But
must have been a North Korean.
Well, they're on the fucking waylay now, mate. They're on the fucking political asylum card now. They will be going back. But I just thought the 3-round card was a bit wide. Certainly 1 round or possibly even a draw after the 8th would have been my pick. Like, but yeah, I think as you say, it's a bit kind of mercy for me. As you say, guys who are like the massive underdog. Expected to get blasted out. They win a few rounds, or maybe it's a close round. They do well in that round, but at the same time, the fighter comes back, and you know what I'm saying. There was moments in those rounds that Yarde was doing well, but I thought Beterbiev was not so much turning the tables, but he was responding, and to me at least that as well. I think I had a bit of bearing on the fight and how those rounds were scored.
It could be just a weird thing with the mindset of the judges, Steve, and they should understand that outperforming expectations does not equal winning.
Yeah, I think it's a confounding the critics kind of thing. It's like Beterbiev's an absolute monster. He comes forward and knocks people out. Hold on, Anthony Yarde's pushing him back here. He's landed a few good shots. That means he must be doing better. That means he must be winning the rounds. He's landed a few shots. Beterbiev's cut. His face is starting to mash up, Matty. Obviously, Yarde is doing better than we thought. He must be winning here based on what we've seen previously with Beterbiev. Referees and judges can tell you all they want. Oh, we only judge the fight on what's happening in the ring here, there and now. Everybody knows about these fighters coming into fights. If you only judge fights on their merit there and then, Arturo Gatti would have got stopped about another 10 times. People know what Beterbiev's bringing to the table. And the fact, Matty, that Yarde was pushing him back means that I think he was getting not sympathy points, but he was getting more credit possibly than he deserved. And that's not me saying he shouldn't get credit, but on the judges' cards, maybe.
Yeah, and I think that 68-65 one was out of whack. I think at a press, from ringside vantage point, we're not ringside. You might come up with that 67-66 towards Yarde, but I feel like it was a close fight that Beterbiev'S was winning. And there could have been some crowd reactions and stuff like that. I guess the early rounds were kind of hard to score, but it seemed if you only gave Beterbiev 2 of those rounds, it seemed like you're reaching for something. And that just didn't reflect the fight whatsoever.
Reaching for the crack pipe.
Yeah, and I think Judge, honestly, Steve, I would personally rather have judges be generally oblivious to fighters and what they're known for. I could care less if they're boxing fans. I want them to know how to score a fight. I don't think that you need to be one to do the other. Whereas on the other hand, I think referees should be more aware of fighters and previously, like, do they show good recovery powers, or should is there a danger with letting them go, etc., etc. A little bit of understanding of the fighters, and I think it's a little bit different on that one. Judges, I could care less, and I would actually prefer they don't have any kind of sentiments going into the fight. But refs, I think they do kind of need to have an understanding of the fighters.
Yeah, I completely agree. Just sticking with you, Matty, on this next point before we move on to what's next and the undercards and stuff. I think the stoppage was Steve Gray's kind of Kovalev cleverly moment. If an away fighter had negatively responded like Yarde did after that first knockdown, Gray would have waved it off straight away. After that, he kind of fussed a little bit with Yarde's gloves for about 3 or 4 seconds, giving him every opportunity to continue, which I don't necessarily agree with. But Yarde looked like someone at that point who'd just given his all. He knew he had nothing left to offer. And Tunde, to his credit, spotted that and just called it off.
Yeah, I think Gray wanted Yarde to continue more than Yarde wanted to continue. And it was, honestly, it wasn't. I don't think it was as bad as letting Eubank continue after that knockdown. But yeah, I think you're definitely right that if there was going to be some bias shown, if you flip the script on that one, if Beterbiev had gone down like that, I think that he would have taken that chance to wave him off, like almost as soon as he hit the canvas, covering him up. Done.
Doing that thing like that I hate, like grabbing hold of Beterbiev and trying to hold him down.
Yeah.
That
Like
wouldn't have lasted for too long.
Goodwill Hunting thing. It's not your fault, Arthur. It's not your fault.
Michael Thompson keeps on calling Beterbiev AB. I'm not a fan of that, Michael. It's confusing my brain, man. I keep on thinking of Broner all the time, every time I see that. I think we're going to have to put a stop to that. But anyway, yeah, AB. Beterbiev is the new AB, apparently.
About Bolsheviks.
No, absolute beast. That's what he fucking stands for.
What's next then, Andy? We did mention it last week. It's Bivol or nothing for me. Anything else? I mean, maybe Callum Smith. We talked about it last night. Tried to pick names out of a hat. Callum knocks him out in 6 rounds. Beterbiev's not going to want that smoke. It's got to be Bivol.
Well, I was actually going to wait till Belly of the Week because I was going to put Eddie up for clout chase, and simply he was on the back end of that fucking fight there last night, calling for Smith Beterbiev next. Winner will face Bivol for Undisputed. No, fuck that. Undisputed next. I think unifications should be taking precedent over mandatories. And well, we're talking about this morning on the messengers about Callum Smith. He's been in the division how long now? About a year, 2 years or something like that. He moved up after the Canelo fight, so that was 2020. 2 fights against no one really who are world ranked, at least that I can recall. I think the French guy was possibly maybe European ranked, maybe an ex-European champion possibly. But who the fuck wants to see Callum Smith against Arthur Beterbiev, apart from Scousers? No, it's got to be Bivol next, mate. It's Bivol or bust. I think I mentioned it last night. I don't know if Bivol's got anything lined up or anything like that. I like to see Callum Smith possibly fight Joe Smith if he's still going to be fighting. As a kind of warm up. I didn't want to be seeing that fight anytime soon. And I don't think Smith causes Beterbiev the problems that like maybe Tony Bellew are going on about at least. I think we saw what Canelo did to him. Made him kind of shell up a little bit. I think once he starts feeling the power, Beterbiev's, especially doing the latter half of the fight, I think it'll become quite telling. Plus, he's got a lot of body to aim at as well. So, but it's going to be the Bivol fight. Technique against technique with brute strength on the back end. Winner take all. It's what you want to see. It's, we're getting some of these undisputed fights over the last year and a bit or whatever. So this is another one that's got to get made. Just trying to think who would probably make it. Beterbiev, ESPN, and Bivol. Is he still with Hearn?
Yep.
Oh fuck. Yeah, we're not going to see that fight then, are we?
No. What about Yarde against Joe Smith Jr., Andy? I wouldn't mind seeing that in the future if Smith's still fighting. I'd say once the two of them unify, at some point the belt's going to get split. Frank will have Yarde straight back up in the WBO. Smith's a former WBO champion. It kind of makes sense. I'd see that in 2 years' time as a vacant title fight.
Yeah, and Dan Aziz also one of Frank's fighters. I think he's quite highly ranked.
He's boxer, I think, Andy.
Is he boxer? Sorry, aye. So, but he's kind of creeping up the ranks. I say he's fighting next week or the week after. Yeah, you're probably right there, mate. Actually, you're probably thinking about maybe the back end of this year. I mean, that's the Yarde mandatory dealt with. I believe the IBF is still vacant. Boatse is supposedly meant to be Bivol's #1 contender, but no, that fight's never going to happen. Is it? Really? Are we really believing that Boatse is going to go from a trash he's been fighting to fighting Bivol? Surely no. Surely not.
I suppose Yarde kind of went from trash to fighting Kovalev, didn't they?
Yeah, I suppose that's a fair point. And then obviously, as I mentioned, the next one up would be Callum Smith. But look, deal could be made if Smith's happy to step aside. I don't know if he's took a step aside before. Why no wait? Why no challenge the winner? Get all the fights, get all the belts. Challenge for all the titles, and if you win, then fucking great. So,
yeah.
As I go through the rankings, Steve, there's basically 4 names that are coming up for this, or 3 names really. You got Smith, you got Boatse, you have Aziz. Those names keep appearing high in the rankings. People that have not fought Beterbiev.
Bolotniks is getting up there as well in the rankings as well. I just think, you see that guy that Callum Smith last fought, I see he's ranked number 6 with the WBC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a couple of names coming in there on the back end I've never seen, to be fair. I need to go and check some details on them. Yeah, there's no any great pickings there, to be fair, mate. As you say, I kind of agree with what Matty's saying. There's about 4 names, possibly. No really strong contenders, to be fair, to challenge those 2 belt holders.
Going through those rankings, just out of the blue, Steve, the fight that I saw, I don't know what he's doing at this point in time, but I actually think Jean Pascal against Joe Smith Jr. is a very cool fight, and I would love to see that one.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind to see that. Although the fact that John Pascal's still hanging around the scene, he got that win over Albiali, didn't he, a few years ago, and that's kind of reinvigorated him, a bit like when Rosado knocked out Melakuziev. You think that these guys are drifting out the sport?
He beat that unbeaten Chinese guy too, I think.
Oh, Meng, yeah.
Yeah. Fan Long Meng, yep. Or Meng.
Did he beat Marcus Brown as well, or did Brown beat him? I can't remember. I think he beat Brown, didn't he?
Was that a draw, maybe?
Was it like a headbutt type of thing?
No, I think you might be right, and that's how I picked up a title again a while back.
Oh, yeah, Pascal's on great form, man. Get him in.
No, Pascal's career has been, that might be 5 years ago, Steve. His career's been, he's been here and there and everywhere. He's highs and lows and steroid tests and blah, blah, blah. Pascal, he's been interesting to follow. And who would have thought that his career would have been this interesting following the fight with Rocha? I mean, it was a war and everything, but, thinking that he was going to be a mainstay of boxing for, a decade longer than that, a decade and a half. That's incredible.
Yeah, no, I'm doing John Pascal a disservice here. Sorry, John, if you're listening. Right, let's move on anyway. Forget about Callum Smith. It's all about Ozzy Smith sliding in tonight. Tell you what, Ozzy, I'll lead you in nice and easy, man. Absolutely fantastic fight last night between Yarde and Beterbiev.
A brilliant fight, and probably somewhat unexpected as well. I think not many people gave Yarde a chance. I think yourself and a couple of others predicted that the fight would go on into the second half of the fight last week. And it did do that, but I think it's fair to say that nobody expected it to happen the way it did. I thought Yarde boxed incredibly well, and despite getting knocked out, it was a career best performance. He showed that, I think the introduction of James Cook into the camp was huge. You know, you can tell that he's developing by each fight and coming on leaps and bounds. And last night, you know, he stood toe to toe with, you know, an elite level puncher fighter and had success and won rounds. This wasn't like the Kovalev fight from where he had one round and that was that. I thought it was relatively close come the stoppage. I thought Beterbiev was ahead, but Yarde had his successes. I won't say that Beterbiev was out and out hurt, but I definitely felt that Beterbiev felt the shots. And I think Yarde announced himself on well and truly on the world stage last night. And we always say on this podcast that it doesn't matter that you may suffer a defeat, but it is the manner you get beat. And despite getting beat last night, Anthony Yarde is hot property. He's on, you know, everybody is talking about him. I have no doubt that more people want to see him box more than ever now. Excellent atmosphere and crowd last night. Beterbiev, excellent. I think he's come in for a bit of unfair criticism, actually. You know, he looked ponderous, slow. People coming out saying Callum Smith, you know, he's tailor-made for Callum Smith. Completely disagree with that as well. I think Anthony Yarde put in a performance that not many expected and showed that he's got levels to go through. He's got an excellent chin. You know, he weathered the storm a couple of times and actually bounced back incredibly well. So, yeah, a great fight. I gave Yarde no chance last week. I thought Bivol would do it inside 4 rounds. He just hit, not Bivol, sorry, Beterbiev, he'd hit too hard and he'd just be too cute. I was happy to get that wrong. Yes, got the prediction right in terms of a Beterbiev stoppage. But, you know, all in all, I thought it was an excellent performance from Anthony Yarde. And absolutely, you know, it makes me wonder, you know, why they were so, you know, like protective over him in the earlier stages of his career, because I genuinely believe that, you know, had they have matched him better, and I'm not saying, you know, chucking him in with, you know, big punchers and big, you know, like elite boxers, but had you have matched him well, you know, like domestically and up into European level, A, I think he'd have beaten Sergey Kovalev, and B, you never know, he might not have made some of the mistakes he did last night against Beterbiev, from where, you know, like he did somewhat, you know, have him buzzed and then he got excited and, you know, lunged in, and then Beterbiev would react massively. And, you know, when he landed, it was like a bloody shotgun would go off at times. But you just wonder, you know, like he has clearly got skills and he's clearly got ability. And you've got to question, you know, was it an ego thing from Tunde Ajayi to bring somebody in just so late on in the camp, you know, because Yarde has come on leaps and bounds, particularly from that Lyndon Arthur fight, from where he was beaten off basically a bloke with one arm. And since then, you know, he's bounced back. And again, there's no shame in losing at that level whatsoever. And we go on. It's going to be interesting to see who they match him with next. I'd love to see the Buatsi fight, without a doubt. I would favour Yarde in that fight. I would say Yarde is the A side in that fight as well. And I've seen some comments saying, you know, he's the best 175 in Great Britain and the UK. I think you can argue maybe Callum Smith potentially, but then a lot of people have said as well that what Yarde has done at 175 is better, and even against elite level performers. Because look at what Callum Smith did when he stepped up to elite level. He was made to look basic and did absolutely nothing against Canelo. And to say now he'd step up and do, you know, like, oh yeah, he's going to knock out Artur Beterbiev. Absolutely nothing to support that whatsoever. Yarde, yes, he's failed twice, you know, at the top level, once at elite, once at world level. But at the same time, particularly on the second effort, he made a name for himself from where, like I say, everybody will want to see him box next and soon as well. And I mean, if that picture is real, I've seen this picture, but I wasn't sure if it was photoshopped. But if it is the case, what is Frank doing? Bob Art, trackies, unbelievable.
Looks well, doesn't it?
It's an Arsenal fucking tracky outfit, is it not?
Yeah, I don't get. Is that actually real? That picture? I wasn't sure if somebody.
Look at the neck. Look at the neck, man.
Yeah. I was going to say, I seen it a couple of days ago, and I thought there is no way Frank, who wears like suits worth an absolute fortune, is donning a fucking Arsenal trackie with the Jamaica flag on. Trackies and stuff like that. But you never know, it is Frank Warren. Who knows what he could do?
Hey, Ozzy, you said about what's next for Yarde. What about next for Beterbiev?
For me, there should only be one fight that's next, and that's Beterbiev'S. That's the one fight we all want to see. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you want to see the two best light heavyweights box against each other?
Eddie Hearns is different.
Yeah, but at the same time as well, people have made good points. When has Hearn ever actually made, a huge contest like this? People can refer to, like Canelo Bivol. That wasn't a massive fight as such, that wasn't anything. And, Smith, coming out. I don't see the fight happening next. I really don't. Smith boxes on average one time a year at the moment. There's no way his only fight of the year will be against Beterbiev. It just won't happen. There's talk about he's going to headline a show in Liverpool in, a month's time, maybe a couple of months. I'd love to know who that's going to be against. And I say,
we can't pronounce their name.
As in what perspective?
Whoever Smith's opponent is, we wouldn't be able to pronounce their name.
Sorry, yeah, absolutely. I mean, an absolute no mark. It'll be on the line. So do you remember when he boxed Norbert Nemesapati from bloody Bulgaria or Hungary or something like that? It'd be along those lines if he'll be coming in against. And then again, he'll be sitting on the sidelines for months on end, just, waiting for the right opportunity. For me, you only want to see the unification next. That is it. The undisputed fight. Why wouldn't you want to see this next? This is where, mandatories become somewhat of a problem. It's not as if Smith has been, sat on the sideline waiting, months, even years for this opportunity. He's boxed twice at 175 and he's now apparent, mandatory. He boxed, a guy who, he was expected to beat, and then he beat Border League last time out, from which as well, I watched that fight back today, and Border League had a lot of success. So for people to say that, Beterbiev is tailor-made for him, that is absolute bollocks. Because if Smith boxes the way he does, like he did against Border League, the way he does Beterbiev, he'll get knocked out. Without a doubt, he'll get knocked out. Borderley is not a big puncher, but my God, he landed some shots on Callum Smith. And he had to take a step back at times as well. If Beterbiev does that, there's no way that Smith gets away with it. And like I said, the last time he stepped up to elite level, which was against Canelo, and everyone was saying before the fight, he's too big, he's too strong, he's going to be, smother, he's going to swarm Canelo. What did he do? Absolutely fuck all. He went into a shell, claimed an injury, and just basically cruised to a points defeat. That is it. He showed no interest in winning that fight whatsoever. And like I said, I don't think the Beterbiev fight will happen next. And if it does, I don't see him beating him either.
Well said, Ozzy. 12,346 listening in, only 41 likes at the moment. Come on, boys, step it on up. One person who's used to stepping it on up is rapping Rob Kelly. The big question is, Rob, did your mate manage to get to where he was going to last night?
No, that was it was a pizza delivery guy, and he's fucking always top of me. He sees me and he's always top of me. He won't bother looking for the address because he see me, just gets me to point it out. So about 2 minutes after I jumped off, I think we were talking about Yarde. He's out in the middle of the road with the car blockaded. I get on, he gives me the phone to the fucking guy, and your man's like, just look opposite, I'm fucking waving at you. So yeah, it's like fucking hold on there, pal. Hold on for a second. Let me go back into boxing Asylum mode. Yeah, so anything could happen. I'm indoors at the moment, but we never know. I might meet him again on my travels. So,
all right. Well, you need to get that guy to subscribe, Rob, and listen to your expert analysis on the Yarde Beterbiev last night. What are you thinking?
Yeah. No, look, I think I kind of covered Yarde last night. Gave him his credit, gave him his props, and it has to be about Beterbiev looking back. And I mean, the guy, he's fucking scary. He's scary because imagine you can fight that well, and even at Yarde fighting that well and up to 8 rounds, he's after having to go through fucking hell. Round 7, dig it out. Round 4, round 3, his eyes are rolling around in the back of his head. Still on Beterbiev, not having an off night, but for say him having the night of his life. He's had to just hang in every second of the way against the guy who's probably not having his best performance. It's a scary proposition. The fucking it kind of delivered not unintentional value but unexpected value. I thought the fight would play out like that, but I just didn't think it was going to play on longer than that past the 4th round last week when we were making our picks. As I said, I had Beterbiev for the late stoppage, but it it just caught fire, like, and became an excellent spectacle. And now it just makes you kind of think of the dream matchups. Before, I wasn't that bothered. Like, I mean, I wanted to see Beterbiev'S, but you know, like you said last night, like, each time you watch one of them, you think that one's going to win or that one's going to win. But it is it's a high level, fight for the sport, and I think there's more eyes in it now, and I think it's done no harm for the casual Beterbiev coming over, going on the road, coming over to London, defending his game. He's going to gain more fans from a performance like that as well, and it's going to put everybody on the edge of their seat to see it. But of course, don't fucking expect to see it next, because who's out? He's out last night telling us Callum Smith is next, isn't it? And then Bivol, he doesn't want. He's hanging on to Bivol as his own star as well. He doesn't want to necessarily serve him up straight away, so we put Callum Smith in there first. I mean, Bellew's at it, I'm sure. Fucking, it's not even point to talking about Bellew of the week, because ever since he's become the disappearing man and gone on to Dead Zone, he doesn't really have that much content that he can deliver to us anyway. Not like the glory days when he was on Sky. But it's like he's at it. There's no fucking. He don't believe that for a split second, and nobody with eyes believes it. That's seen the two of them fight either believe that Callum Smith could fucking. Callum Smith is one of the luckiest guys in the sport, and I'm not detracting from him, and I'm not taking anything away from a professional athlete with a pro career. But he didn't beat John Ryder that night, and because he beat John Ryder, he went down and got that Canelo payday. And as Ozzy said, he did fuck all in that fight, man. He didn't try to win it, and you know that's totally down to him. That's no shots or whatever. He's gone off into the sunset with his payday. But they're not, like, even if they make that Beterbiev fight, which I don't think they fucking will, does anyone give him a chance? Like, he hasn't even got. Yeah, it had the puncher's chance. Like, people
he's got a puncher's chance, man. To be Callum has had some killer KOs.
Yarde went for it though. At least he didn't shit the bed and just be negative and do absolutely nothing. At least he had a go. We knew he had to. If he had any aspirations of winning that fight, he had to have a go at some point, and he did. And that's all you can ask. So, as you say,
exactly.
Fuck all.
That's what I mean. So exactly, and that's the point I was making. That everybody said that Smith had the ability to knock Canelo out, or at least wobble him, cause problems, and we didn't see that whatsoever. And like we say, like. He struggled, he lost against John Ryder. Let's have it right. He lost against John Ryder, got a favourable decision. He boxed to a weird, scrappy decision win against a fucking kickboxer, Nicky Holskin. Callum Smith is the epitome of UK boxing, from where a guy has just been built up massively. And actually, his top wins, there's nothing fantastic about them. He beat George Groves, which you can argue is his best win, and Groves had, a busted shoulder and had to rush back in that, so basically he could get that huge payday in the World Boxing Super Series.
Groves was done after that fight too. He never saw a ring again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and as well, that was a close fight. There was probably a round in it, and Groves had one arm. After that, what are we talking about? Rocky Fielding. Wow, Rocky Fielding, Christopher Rabras, European level. We're talking about Callum Smith like this is elite level. He sat on a WBC mandatory for fucking ages for that 168 title and never bloody boxed for it. He was more bothered about boxing like Luke Blackledge. I said it before, Norbert Nemesapati, waiting for this opportunity against Badu Jack. And then before it came around, he jumps into this World Boxing Super Series, from where he beats Eric Skoglund, European level, Nicky Holskin. Who the fuck is Nicky Holskin, really? I get late replacement, but again, should have banged him out, didn't. And then beats, an injured George Groves in the final. Then beats Jack in a Box, Hassan and Dam, knock him down, he gets back up straight away, bangs him out. Loses to John Ryder, gets a Canelo payday, does absolutely nothing at that level, then goes missing for 10 months, comes back, fantastic knockout, by the way, against Gilbert Rivera, left him shaking on the floor. What happens next? He goes missing for 11 months again, nothing from him. And then beats Borderleek. And again, wasn't good against Borderleek, by the way, either. It's all about, he scored this fantastic KO. But you can look at it beforehand as well. He was tagged regularly. He didn't look fantastically well. He was messy. He was lunging in. He was missing with wild shots. Maybe that's because he didn't have the respect for him. But at the same time as well, when you step up, we're not talking one level or two, probably 3 or 4 levels. people like Beterbiev, and it showed last night as well, Yarde had success, but when he got overconfident and missed, who was right on it straight away? Beterbiev straight away. And I see that exactly happening. But you made a brilliant point, Andy. Anthony Yarde had the balls to do that last night. He stood there basically and was willing to trade. Even when he took one, what was he doing? He was firing back and at times landed as well. Can you see Callum Smith doing that? I cannot whatsoever, because in every fight that has happened so far, he's done nothing to show that.
You know, I think something, if you kind of look through his resume, is I think Smith has a problem fighting small fighters who know how to fight small. You know, Ryder, Canelo, etc., etc. So that might not come into play against Beterbiev, but I obviously, I mean, he should get smoked in that fight, all things going. But I think there is an issue that he has as far as styles goes, and he has a hard time with those shorter guys who know how to get in, work over the top, work underneath from their weird vantage point. And I think, yeah, it could be interesting actually seeing him move up another weight class to where there's more sizable opponents, because I think he just does better when people are fighting at his eye level.
Yep, short squat opponents could be the ones to cause the trouble. Right, let's have a look through the chat, everybody, before we move on to the undercard, episode 508. Ozzy's joined us, Rapping Rob Kelly's here as well, Andy's floating about, so is Matty, and I'm still here as well. Let's have a look who is in the chat. As I bring it up, Ben Russell's there. Shout out to Ben Russell, M. Lithgow 1983. Slappy Gilmore, number 1, Yumi Yappy is here as well with us. Cedric Sniff, Yoni, Michael Thompson, is that his real name? Who knows? Christmas is with us as well. Christmas is always coming. Matt Butters, shout out to MB, Big A, Adam Beanie Smith, the Boxing Asylum, no, that's us. Shout out to us as well. Harvey Price Boxing returns. G Poker, Ryan Ormerod, he's floating about there. Jim McDonald Boxing, Des. It's always a cesspit, isn't it, in the chat? You need a shower, Matty, after you've been in this chat, I think, on a Sunday evening. Danny Young as well. Chris Butler, who threw in a super chat last night, actually. That reminds me. Shout out to Chris Butler, who threw in a few pound. Yumi Yappy as well, Dr. FMG, and Ryan Deal, who all super chatted us last night for the post-fight pod. Ryan Ormerod said, Steve, ask Matty about the real fight this weekend. We're coming to that, Ryan. Don't worry, we're coming to that. Let's get on to the undercard first of all, Matty, before we do so. What was the pick for you? I know you like the little guys. Artem Dalakian, 12-round decision over David Jimenez. From what I saw of it, Dalakian seemed to be doing quite well, but it was very close on the cards. Was that a fair reflection of the fight?
I thought that 116, 112 might have been getting a little too wide there. I think it was a 7 rounds to 5 fight either way, or a draw. So you could say it was fair, you could not say it was fair, depending on what you're doing. I think the people that scored it for Jimenez saw him coming forward and the great work that he was doing to the body. And I think the people that scored it for Dalakian were scoring it for him because he when he was throwing his shots, he was throwing sharper punches, and at times his jab was kind of controlling the fight. So I thought it was fair. Maybe I just thought it was fair because I had Dalakian to win in my bets this weekend, but whatever. I'll tell you what though, what I think noticing with Dalakian, he's an older fighter at a lower weight class. He used to have fantastic feet, and the foot speed and the movement just isn't there. You can see that diminishing. I think he's really going to be there for the taking in the next fight because I just think he keeps slowing down. He was out of the ring for quite a while. Maybe he's just having trouble getting his reflexes back, and he had to get back in there. But my hunch is that as long as it's not just some schmuck, that Dalakian will probably be losing his next fight. But Jimenez, he needs to stick around. He's a good fighter, a lot of good qualities, and I'd like to see more of him.
Yep, let's see more of him. Andy, from a marketing point of view on the undercard, Frank Warren, he's going to be fuming about that Carol Itauma losing. I mean, having the two brothers together on the card, all of the PR that goes with it would have been very effective. As you know, it's all over before it even started. Moses banged out a jobber. Carol got done himself. 1SG UK threw this into the chat, Andy, over the weekend. He said 2 things. Has there ever been a case of a fighter diving on the floor without taking a shot? Then in the Moses Itauma fight, well, I've seen quite a few going to ground over the years, as I'm sure you have as well. Bellew of the week to the BT team, pretending it was a genuine KO. Not one of them went out of the script. He must punch pretty hard, this Moses fella, because old Bode was down before it barely started, hadn't it?
Yeah, so what did we catch here? I'll go with the Moses fight. I mean, there wasn't really much you could add actually. But that's probably the one that Aussie should maybe kind of jump on, that Marshall Bode. Well, I get it. I know the guy's like 2-2 and he's not kind of fought anybody, but the kid's only 18 at this point. But it looks like he's going to, when he does finally fill it, he's going to be an absolute monster, I reckon, at heavyweight. Hopefully he keeps the power. Just need to see him hopefully get stepped up a wee bit. But next 2 years are going to be interesting for him, really, because you see he can't fight for the British, and he's got this unofficial goal of trying to beat Mike Tyson's record in that as well. So interesting one for him. As for the brother, at least, that was an absolute shocker, actually, to be fair. I'm trying to remember actually what happened in the 5th round regards to getting put down. Was it not a right hand?
Yeah, he couldn't get it the way, the right hand all night.
Aye. But then I think it was the 4th round. I think he got badly hurt runabouts, maybe late in the round 4.
Yeah, it was the 3rd or the 4th, one of them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And probably just didn't recover, but he looked absolutely devastated after that fight, actually. Going to be a hard one because we've said it before about these Argentinians, Mexican guys that we bring over sometimes. You look at the record and you say, they don't fought much here, but sometimes you will get. And this guy's been in with decent quality, by the way, over the years. So, although it's 28-10, very deceptive, obviously, in that, but clearly a fighter who can, on some nights, shall we say, flip the script and he'll come out victorious. And it's obviously one of these guys. It's brought in and he's been overmatched slightly, Carol. So I don't know what they'll do with him next. Actually, what is he, a light heavyweight? Yeah, I would probably try and get him running about the British title level, area title level, if he's not fought for it yet. Really, he needs to be doing that, and then make a move from there. No rush, absolutely no rush. But is he 9-10-0 or was 9-9-0?
Yeah.
Carol. Fucking hell, there's just absolutely no rush with these guys now. So take their time with him. But I think Moses, I've seen some of his fights in amateurs and that, and it does look. Then I was 17-year-old at the time, and he's sleeping people for an amateur. It's pretty much, you watch some of these fights. Amateur fights are 15 minutes long. This guy's going in there and icing guys, properly discombobulating them. So we'll definitely want to look out for when he finally fills it. But no rush for him either, man. I mean, this Mike Tyson record, forget about it. Learn your craft.
Yeah. We were talking about it last night, Ozzy. Sorry, Matty, go ahead.
Remember when they were talking with
Richie Woodall was actually he wasn't so much disappointed, but see the way in he spoke. Sorry, Matty. He spoke to him and he says, "Look, all the best for tomorrow night. I'm disappointed, in a sense that he says, I'm disappointed you're turning professional, because clearly that guy was going to be next odds-on favourite to be our next or England's even next gold medalist, either Commonwealths, the Olympics is kind of up in the air, not the Worlds, Europeans. He's got some of the youth goals and that as well. Clearly a talent, but you wonder as well, just turning pro at 18, there's going to have to be just pump the brakes a little bit by him as well.
Well, it was kind of like when Huey Fury turned over when he was 18, and Peter was talking. Oh, well, he's going to beat Tyson's record. He's bigger than Tyson Fury, and he's faster and he's more fluid. Blah 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 blah. And I mean, Huey Fury has just been a complete fucking lump, at least in comparison to Tyson.
He's getting his man strength now, Matty.
Yeah. Now at this point in time, I can't wait to see how that comes forward. But yeah, I think you have to set more reasonable expectations. The one thing that I did see that they're doing with Itauma that sounds good is that they're going to be trying to get him out 8 times this year, and I think that's more like it. I think that's more old school. You need to do things like that, and it's a shame that they don't do that often anymore, because it's just the way to go about it. I mean, you got him in the gym. You might as well get him a paycheck while you're at it. Keep him active, keep him in fighting shape, and just kind of slowly work them up. You're fighting that many times. I'm as a fan in your first year, I don't care who the shit you fight. If you fight 8 times your first year, good for you, good for being active. So I like the basis of the roadmap, but I think they need to be honest about when and where this could happen, especially when you're talking an age of heavyweights, where right now the current class, if you want a title, you're going through, Tyson Fury at this point in time, or Usyk, the master boxer, and right behind them you have Wilder, the most murderous puncher in the last 40 years, and Joe Joyce, who's a absolute tank. It's a good time to move slow. It'd be a good time, like, catch some of these guys maybe on their way out, because they still have some good fights left in them. And if you think that you're going to be running into them in the next 24 to 36 months, I think you got a fucking bad news ahead of you.
Absolutely, well said, Matty. Ozzy, we were talking last night actually about Dubois when he turned pro, kind of young, big puncher, a lot of blaze of glory whenever he came over. I had that absolute jobber in his first fight, and then a few numpties after that, and then they slid up the opposition gently. As long as they get the matchmaking right, that's the thing with Itauma Moses. There's no point in rushing him, and he's clearly not a talker. Again, very like Dubois, just getting the right fights at the right time, and when he's ready to step up, then hopefully he can win that title. But there's no rush with him at the moment.
Absolutely not. And, you forget, like, 18, he could well be in his prime in 10 years, which is scary, really, But Andy's right, when he fills out, he's going to be, he should be one of the best around, without a doubt. Do we look into much last night? No. Do I agree with what they did? They were always going to get him a job at, chief support somewhat. I get it. He's turning over. You want people watching him. There's all eyes on this show. Get it done. The good thing is he's out relatively soon next. He's on the Nathan Heaney, Jack Flatley undercard. So that's good. You want to keep him active. Get him 4 or 5 fights this year. Why not? And if he's fighting, different, doesn't need to be, elite level at 18. What is the rush whatsoever? I mean, you talked about that jobber, Marcus Kelly, that was in Daniel Dubois' opening fight. I think Marcus Kelly would have beat that bloke who bloody Itauma who knocked out last night as well. So, I mean, could it be the return of Marcus Kelly to potentially try and topple one of Frank's young heavyweights? Probably not, but there's no rush. I understand, it's a PR thing about wanting to beat Mike Tyson's, heavyweight record. In reality, that's not going to happen whatsoever. I just can't see that unless, he really does go through the levels. I mean, that was his first fight last night with I think it was, 10-ounce gloves, something like that, 10-ounce gloves and no head guard. So there really is no rush. I mean, what is the achievement? BT will be happy if he's banging out people. It doesn't matter what they're like if he's banging them out. And I can argue in such way that, Conor Benn was like this, when he turned over, but he didn't even have the amateur experience. But they matched him, and we were saying on this pod, I remember, if he needs 20 fights to get up to that area level, because he had no experience, that's fine. But match him off screen. Keep him active, get him 6-7 fights each year and do it that way. They're clearly not going to do this with Itauma because, he's got a huge, investment in him. So that's fine. But at the same time, we don't want to see him as chief support every time as well. I'd look to match him in a way, possibly not as strong as Anthony Joshua, but, a bit level or below in a sense that, I won't be chucking him in with Kevin Johnson after 8-9 rounds type stuff, 8 or 9 fights. But, it's not, that sort of a bad opponent, after 10 or 12 for him, potentially, depending on how he goes through the levels. But, yeah, it's hard to judge him off last night, in all honesty. It was literally the guy went down like a sack of spuds off 2 punches. He did what he should do, bang out an absolute no mark, and we move on to the next one. As for his brother, I mean, I have got to hold my hands up. I slated the opponent last week, and Matty quite rightly called me out and said, actually, this guy, he's no mug. He has got, he's been in with some decent people and has only lost at, basically, against the good guys, Tommy Eustace and Beterbiev'S, Uzcat guy, Chudinov, people like that. That saying, I rate Karol Itauma, and I thought he'd have enough to beat him. I didn't think he'd be a walkover. And looking at, Moderna's, last few fights last night, he'd lost 4 out of 5. So, it was as expected. You think, Itauma, it was good enough to beat him. And he simply wasn't. He had no answer to a right hand. It was relatively basic. And, a lot of people were coming out after it saying, oh, yeah, it was bad matchmaking. Had Itauma have come through and won a close, close decision, something like that, the matchmaking would have been praised. It's nigh on an impossible job. Is his career over? Absolutely not. No way. Boxers, of all levels have lost to opponents a lot worse than Moderna. I remember Anthony Croller lost to Jordan Vasilev, I think it was, and he was one of the, elite journeyman type of thing, 80 fights, something like that, 50 fights. And Croller went on to win a world title. So, he's lost, it happens, everything happens, even as far as Amir Khan got banged out of Brady's Prescott. Khan still went on to have a fantastic career.
Far better than Prescott's.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. And, it's boxing. It can happen as well. Is it an upset? Absolutely. Is it a bump in the road? Definitely. Can he bounce back? 100%.
I just wish I bet it. I can't remember what the odds were on that odds, but they were massive.
He was 10 to 1 to win, huge price. Absolutely huge. I'll go as far as saying there will not be a bigger upset this year in terms of a betting price than this fight last night. But I agree. He just needs to go back to, like, this is why I always bang on about it, the traditional level. You go to the traditional level, you don't have hiccups like this, because when you come in against opponents like this, you've had your tests through area level, English, Commonwealth, British. Then you'll come on to fight for these, like bauble belts with the WBC, WBA. But you've had your, you've had everything coming through. You've had your apprenticeship. Instead, he's not boxed anybody, in terms of, like domestic level who will come to win. His best wins Vladimir Beluski, who he beat on the Fury Chisora card, which is a good win. But, go and box 3 or 4 more of them, just who are a bit better than each other. Then come on against Moderna after 14 fights, from which it'd still be a decent enough win. Again, I talk about it all the time, but it's the obsession with rushing people through. No doubt that would have got him a world ranking last night as well, which is pathetic. Take your time. There's no rush. He should mirror, exactly what his brother will do. Go back, go and win the area title. Go and then win the English title. Go and then win Commonwealth. Do it that way. We talk about the fighters who've done it before, and when they come unstuck, it's usually at the top end at world level or fringe world level. There's no shame at losing that level. So again, career's not over, but it's rebuilding time a bit earlier than probably expected as well.
Oz, if I'm in his on his team though, what worries me more than the loss itself was the way that he looked after the fight. Like, I haven't seen somebody look so mentally battered since Broner and Maidana, honestly. Like, the look on his face, like, it's almost hard to explain. It was beyond shock.
It was devastation, man. I mean, you could see a little devastation that was showing his face there last night.
I'd be worried for him, though, because it wasn't like a Khan kind of getting banged out. It was like he couldn't adapt. He was getting hit with the same. And obviously, he can improve in the gym, but it seemed like he hadn't got the ring IQ to be able to stop what was happening. And that would be a worry for me, Ozzy. You're talking pish according to Adam Beanie Smith.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. I understand that. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, but Itauma was not boxed at a decent amateur level. By being able to avoid a simple backhand. At the end of the day, he might have got buzzed early, that sort of stuff. Like I said, I'm not going to judge a fighter this early on in his career because he's had a hiccup against a guy who, I criticised last week in terms of levels, but has only lost to decent level opponents. This guy can come back and win a British title without a doubt. Without a doubt. I remember Robbie Davis Jr. A couple of fights, 3 or 4 fights ago, from where he had Dominic Ingle in the corner, and it was exactly the same. He could not get out the way of a right hand against, I think it was an Argentinian, and lost. Yeah, he's able to bounce back and come on. It's not unheard of. Someone can come unstuck against a certain fighter, but then they move on and actually, go levels above. So that's fine. I understand that, but he'll go away and they'll probably put the brakes on. Match him a bit more conservatively, and then look to step him up when it works well. Let's have it right. Joshua Buatsi, was it against? Was it Marco Kalic or something like that? an absolute no mark of an opponent, and we all slated Buatsi. Yet at the same time as well, Buatsi showed like he'd never been. If you'd have said that was
that was life and death, that fight.
Yeah, exactly. If we'd have said that was a top level amateur, watching it, and we had no clue who the two were, we'd have laughed and said absolute bollocks. But it's shown, Buatsi's actually come back and beaten better opponents than that Kalic, better opponents than that. So, it just shows that, yes, he got beat, but he'll learn a hell of a lot more than probably every fight he's had before that.
Well,
so for me to say,
there's a good number of fighters who have lost their debut fight or lost in their first few fights. It's all over boxing. At the end of the day, At the end of the day,
never fought again for a year.
At the end of the day, what it comes down to, and this would be my concern. It's not that I wouldn't say he doesn't have the skills, he doesn't have the talent. My concern would be just that he was mentally wrecked in that fight, and there's something that he won't be able to come back from it on. It's totally out of anything that you would just normally see with a fighter. And he could look good in the gym, but I don't know that he'll ever look good in the ring again, just because he looked mentally fucking battered after that fight. And it's confidence is such a big part of this sport. If you have no confidence, you can't do anything in the ring that you want to do.
Okay, boys, let's move on. Shout out to Adam Hughes. He said, Steve, your words on Carroll were exactly what I just typed. I'm not here for script writing purposes, fraud. Adam, you supply the words and I'll read them out. No problem at all. Thank you. What are we on to now then? Let's have a look over a couple of the fights over the weekend. Before we go on to DAZN, I'll just give a shout out to Bernard Torres. We mentioned him last week. 8th round TKO over Christian Avila. It rides on in Norway. Good luck to Bernard going forward. Sergei Bohachuk as well. 6th round battering of Nathaniel Gallimore. A real good KO there for the WBC Continental America's super welterweight title. And on to, I tell you what, Matty, I can't remember which undercard fight it was. I think it might have been Floyd Schofield last night against that Mercado. Mm-hmm. I like that female referee. Those instructions, the way she spelt out, this is for the, what title was it again? This is for the WBA International Vacant Lightweight title. She was really getting into things on the undercard. We'll get to her shortly, though. Alexis Rocha in the main event against George Ashy. I tell you what, Ashy is restoring my faith in Ghanaian teak-tough fighters. He had no defense. He kept on pitching. He got dropped. He got hurt numerous times. He could not get out of the way of the right hand and the left hook as well at times. Got absolutely battered at the end. He actually did quite a good account of himself, Mr. Ashy. And Rocha is exciting, if nothing else.
Ashy landed some good shots there in the middle, but that right hook that Rocha finished him off with, and the one that he dropped him with the first time around, a great shot. Definitely a KO of the year candidate, because Ashy was absolutely done face first on the floor. Rocha's talented enough. I think he has his ceiling. We'll get into what they're talking about here in a minute, but I think you do have to give him credit in this. And Steve, I think when I wanted to go do a little bit more looking into George Ashy. Do you know November this year will be the 20th anniversary of his first fight, Steve?
Really?
Yeah, and that was the first time he's been knocked out. So,
seriously, George, how old is he?
38.
Hey man, I thought you
Black don't crack, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Black don't crack.
As Chuck Crew said last night. That's crazy. That flip me. I thought he was only in his 20s. He's doing well. Yeah. Apart from getting back, I tell you what, there was not a mark on that fella last night for that beating he took.
No. Rocha looked like he was in a worse fight than Ashy was in. Fair play to Ashy. He's had a long career. He's fought all sorts of different levels, and just kind of been rocking around the world, taking different fights, and he's got an okay resume. He's bounced a couple of decent wins here and there. So credit to George Ashy. You should probably call it a day after that vicious knockout. 20 years, that's a hell of a long career, my friend. Alexis Rocha, Oscar is trying to sign Terrence Crawford. I wouldn't entirely write it off, and I think that they would probably serve up Alexis Rocha to him. Because I think he's ranked with Crawford's title in the top 5, so he can get away with the defense on that one. And then I think they'd be trying to look for Virgil Ortiz before the end of the year, and then trying to maneuver into a fight with Spence early next year, kind of just feeling it out. But you never know how that might work out. I wouldn't be shocked if they throw up a big enough number to see Terrence Crawford as a Golden Boy fighter for a brief period.
I want to get the boys' opinions on Rocha as well, but while you're on a roll here, Matty, I'm impressed with you. So let's go on to the undercard quickly. I'll give you my 2 pence worth. I'm a bit useless when it comes to minimum weights, but I really enjoyed the fight between Oscar Collazo and Udel Reyes. I thought Floyd Schofield looked good. A very Devin Haney light. I know him and Haney have been beefing back and forwards. He called him a YouTuber or something. Apparently he watches a lot of Aaron Pryor fights, and you could definitely tell that. He is a bit open at times, but he's only 12, 13-0. Nice step up against that Mercado, who got dropped about 4 times. That weren't called by the aforementioned Sharon Sands, who did a good job other than that. Also, Melakuziev, I think he looked pretty good, especially to the body, absolutely battering the shit out of Sierra. It was a nice card from DAZN. Oscar had some good news. He seems sober for once as well. Things are looking up over there.
Yeah, you got to think that it was a really enjoyable card. They had some well-matched fights. It wasn't a big, venue or anything. It was just a small place in California, but they were able to pack it in there. I'll just go through the undercard. Schofield putting in a good performance against Mercado. It was a veteran, never been stopped, and it looked at times that Schofield was going to be able to stop him. He does seem like he's a hell of a good puncher. I could definitely see some liabilities with him. I think someone that gets really in his face and kind of tries to corner him could give him hell. But he's an interesting fighter. He's got power. He uses every punch in the arsenal. He picks times to go forward. He picks times to box. So he's a little bit of a chameleon in the ring. So I do believe that Schofield is going to be around for a while. I was impressed. Just like many others, he runs into this incredibly durable Mercado years after his prime, where he's able to stretch out to the 10 rounds, just being a wily veteran who did land his own good shots in that fight, actually. And then the Oscar Collazo against Udel Reyes fight, that was a very, very entertaining fight. Where there was just a gap in talent and a gap in firepower, and it ended up showing after the first few rounds. As soon as Collazo was able to find that right hook, Steve, it was just game over for him. He was able to drop Reyes hard before ultimately finishing him off with an excellent shot. And this kid, that was his 7th professional fight, I think. Deep amateur pedigree, Puerto Rican. There is a lot to like about him, and I do believe that we're looking at the rise of a lower weight star here with Oscar Collazo. So keep your eye out on him and that just incredible right hook he has. Really talented cat. And then Melakuziev, Beck the Bully, continuing his comeback after the Rosado knockout against Ulises Sierra, was wanting to get some rounds in, and unfortunately, every time he touched Sierra to the body, he hurt him. So it just ended up ending in the 4th round off of a very wicked left hand that he landed from the southpaw stance. Everybody can get knocked out. That was lightning in a bottle, that shot that Rosado landed on Beck. So I think we kind of got to write that off and consider that this guy really is a contender around 168 pounds. And he's got excellent body game. He does have some deficiencies defensively, obviously. But there's some really strong Uzbek fighters coming up, and he's among them. They're working out of the Diaz gym. And you're definitely going to see Melakuziev in a real title fight. Again, loss doesn't say everything about your career. He got one shotted out by Rosado, but he's got serious power, and he can sneak that left hand into the body real easily, and everybody is in danger if he finds a home for it.
Andy, a loss doesn't define your career, because it's interesting to see the career of Alexis Rocha and where it's gone. Back in late 2020, excuse me, he lost a relatively close, people forget, 12-round decision to Speedy Rashidi Ellis. Since then, they've found a home for him on the West Coast around the California region. They've got him the right kind of opponents. He's exciting. He brings a crowd. He sells a few tickets. He's knocked out guys like Blair Cobbs, who have a bit of a reputation. He's gone in against Ashy now. I know it's supposed to be Anthony Young. Basically, Ellis went in and lost against that fella Villa the other week, and Rocha is on the verge of fighting Terence Crawford. Fair play to Golden Boy again for manoeuvring him. And Ellis might be on Skid Row, as we find out later with the PBC.
Yeah, obviously we're discussing the PBC thing, and that would be interesting to get a few people's takes on that actually as well, because it does seem to be kind of turning a little bit sour there. Rocha, yeah, look, I was very impressed with that performance there last night. I don't know much about Ashy, to be fair, and I vaguely remember the Ellis fight, but I noticed both are quite highly ranked with some of the bodies and that as well. So yeah, I think Crawford as well was possibly getting pally with B-Hop and Oscar and that. You're saying that Oscar's looking sober, looking clean. I see that he's been doing some workouts now. He's looking quite trim and looks in fighting shape actually, to be fair to Oscar and that. So maybe he's back in the.
He must have gotten Anthony's workout tape.
But yeah, look, that ending, as I say, it was pretty brutal. He just like the second that right hand or that right hook landed, actually, you heard the guy in commentary and that saying, "Oh my god!" Just to see the guy actually just get dropped like a bad habit, it was pretty emphatic, like exciting without doubt. Or sorry, an exciting ending at least. I don't know if it would make the Crawford fight again. I'm interested to see, because I think this is going to tie back to what's happened with the PBC at the minute. Crawford is kind of floating about there at the minute. He's had his reasons for whatever it is, asking for documents or for clarity or clearance from the PBC. He never got what he was asking for. Depending on what side of the fence you're on, there's a bit of blame on both sides. But he's still got a home to find somewhere, really, hasn't he? And I'm looking at that Ortiz fight, obviously. Oscar's got Virgil Ortiz, and you got Rocha kind of floating about there as well. So there's two fights here for Crawford if he can get the Spence fight, and if he can get those two fights made in quick succession, especially over the course of this year, we could maybe then hold out hope for a Spence fight. Because I think within the next year, the way things have been saying, like I've been saying to you guys, I mean, you've had B-Hop come out there, you've had Stanionis. Sorry, I'm going right off your point here, Steve, on part of your question.
You're all right, go on.
But I'm bringing it to this PBC situation. I think we could see, this year fighters getting so pissed off because the money's not there, lack of dates, the TV companies have not got the same amount of money as well, or not putting up the same amount of money, lack of dates, lack of opportunities. Are these fighters going to start wanting, I want released here, I want to see what other option is here, because these fights are not happening, I'm not getting paid. As I say, I just mentioned Stanionis here, he was raging or not happy about inactivity, and then he gets injured when the fight gets made. A couple other names escape me now and that, but at the same time as the PBC roster's also beginning, kind of getting old. There's no other stars coming up. And I've also heard as well from Deontay Wilder's mouth on a video that money's been late. So it's interesting times at 147 as well. So Crawford, to answer your point, I think he would beat down Rocha, to be honest with you. He's just got more variety. I think Rocha's very come forward. Doesn't really, he's not got any other kind of arrow, boast his arrow, really. So
he'd be tailor-made for Crawford. Yeah. Andy. He's brave and he's a puncher and he's exciting. He just walks straight onto something.
Exactly, and I think the
power. I think he'll buzz Bud once along the way. I do.
That's what I was going to say. That I think the power makes it a slightly interesting fight, because it might just wake Bud up. Bud might walk in there and just say, maybe slight play about, and then it's like the fucking situation against Porter. He finds out he's doing he's told you down in the cards. It's like, okay, switch on, time to go to work. If he gets hit with a shot, I think I could see that same situation, Matty, that he would actually just fucking go to war with a guy. And obviously he's got that great ability that he can switch stance, and as I always maintain, he's a far better southpaw than what he's an orthodox fighter.
Ross's younger brother Priade is on the card as well, and Anthony Kroll is training him in a brown coat. Right.
Kroll Planet TV.
You're Roger. If this is true, this is not official, is it? These are rumors swirling, and Oscar's been making statements. If this is true, as the biggest Bud Crawford fan there is, this fucking stinks to the high heaven as well. I don't give a shit if it's good for Bud or not. Fucking, a fight against Ortiz, not a bad one. Rocha, waste of time. A waste of time for a guy with his talent and his profile level. And like, if the two of them are culpable in this, as far as I'm concerned, the way I've read it over the years, I always felt like Spence is ducking. Where is that? Well, can you hear me, or am I breaking up or something?
No, you're fine, mate. On you go.
No. So I said, I, as far as I'm concerned, over the years, I always thought that Khan was ducking Brook. I never thought that he wanted the smoke with Brook. I always thought he was looking for a way publicly to avoid giving him the fight. And to me, I really feel like Spence is ducking Crawford. I know other people have it in their head that Crawford is ducking Spence, but from the get-go, Spence has been moving the goalposts about the timeline for when the potential fight with Bud will happen. First of all, he's not a welterweight. Then he needs a belt. Then why would I fight him when he has a belt when I can go and get the other belts? Now it's like, chase me to 54. Like, honest to fuck, like, I don't know. The fight's never going to happen. And any fight with the two
Bud's
of them
doing everything
against
he can,
anybody
Rob.
else. Yeah, no, I know, but the opinion in from the Haymanites and all that is not necessarily the same. They're not singing from the same hymn sheet. Like, a lot of them are making Crawford culpable as to the reason why this doesn't. So I think there's a bit of blame to be attached to the two of them. But if you see either of them in with anybody else, it's just a waste of our time as hardcore fans. Like, fucking joke. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, I mean, you make some great points, and I mean, just something I think that's worth noting is that Crawford did make all those concessions, and he basically went along and said, "Sure, you go ahead and be the A side," but all that he wanted was some general control of how the costs go into the event, which affects the net profits, what they all eat off of, right? And then you talk about all these money issues that PBC's having, people making fights and things like that. And I still think that Crawford hit the nail on the head, and that's what people should be paying attention to, is there's a whole lot of waste going on over there, and he's just a sensible Midwestern guy, and he looks at this excess and he's like, this doesn't make sense to me. Why isn't this going in my pocket? I'm the fighter. Who the fuck are these guys? Why are people like the Watson twins making money off of these fights and shit like that? What do they do? And
what's that got to do with Crawford though? He's never fought in the PBC.
Because you see it, and the word gets around. It's a very tight knit community, Steve. You know that. You know how the rumor mill works in boxing between people in the know and things like that. It's just the way that it works. And I'm telling you that he was right. That Crawford was right to call it out. And whether he realized.
Crawford or his alleged advisor, by the way. I don't think Terrence Crawford's coming up with a lot of this shit himself.
Well, and whether he realizes it or not, it's not just right for Crawford. It's right for the sport. They've got to start trimming some of this fat, or the sport's not going to survive.
That's what I was going to say as well. I mean, another name I was going to mention was Broner. Remember, Broner did a podcast with a couple of his mates, and he was saying like Showtime was ready to drop out of the sport. And I believe the Fox deal's ending, Matty. I believe
it's ended.
It's ended. I don't know what the situation with Showtime is.
It seems okay. They got a couple of cards in February.
It's pay-per-view. I mean,
no, they're not pay-per-view in February. You got
most of Showtime's main events that have been putting on them been pay-per-view.
The Matthias Ponce fight is on February 25th. That's regular Showtime, and then the Ray Vargas card is regular Showtime. So that's two cards, regular Showtime in February. So I wouldn't freak out just yet. That's a good sign. And those aren't marquee name cards either, right? So
I think the PBC is definitely in trouble. It's on its way out. We all know
that.
I think Crawford as well. Is surrounded by some bad people. I mean, he gets some bad advice. I think. I think they're both to blame for the fight not happening. I think Crawford's surrounded by some bad advice. But sorry, Andy, go ahead.
No, I'll let you play that video, mate, and then I can maybe make the next point.
Yeah, let me play this now. So this was Hopkins talking last night on DAZN, everybody.
So we got this fight with Ryan and Gervonta. What is it going to take in order for us to get the other super fight that people want to see, Terrence and Errol?
It's going to bring the other super fights that's waiting on a limbo to see if they want to take their own careers and their own decisions in their hand and make the fights like Tank is doing. Is really managing the traffic that's going to start the trigger in other fighters. Bud Crawford, them guys going to start it. That fight didn't happen with him and Spence. Yo, what they're going to do, when they see the door open, them young fighters, they're going to sit back and say, "Hold." They're going to say, no, wait, they need us, don't go nowhere. That was good 3 or 4 or 5 years ago when they was getting 12-round money for 4-rounders. Al Haymon can't pay him that no more. That been stopped. And they all scattering now. Shoot, whop, they all coming. Hey, can you let me in? And you got to remember, every time you still fight, if that contract is still live by the date it expired, you got to get that man 25% of your money. They starting to realize now, I got to give Al my money. Yes, he's not a promoter. He's an advisor. He got around the Muhammad Ali Act that I stood up for that made that law. Look at that. Look at the memoirs on Google it, and you'll see Bernard Hopkins talked at the Senate hearings. So now y'all got Duke because he's under the advisor, which the Ali Act doesn't cover. But now you over here with Aram, you over here with us, you over here with that, and they're like, oh, everybody's working together. No. The well dried up. You got this big house. You got all these cars. That's when stuff was good. You getting overpaid. You got maintenance, and you got bills, and you got taxes at the wrong time. And then COVID hit. That exposed a lot of frauds. If your money ain't right, then it's funny. And a lot of people's money is funny. True.
The interviewer already asked him who he was.
No, he's absolutely right. He's absolutely
CTE
right.
there, definitely.
Tell you what,
10 years time's going to be interesting. Like.
He didn't need those last two fights, B-Hop, did he? Kovalev and Joe Smith, he definitely did not need those last two fights.
No.
Fucking hell, that's a bit scary. Like.
But as I was saying as well, AB's come out there. B-Hop made an interesting comment there about Tank. It's interesting to see that the fights he's going to make, if this Garcia fight does come off, then it feels like he's taking his own career in his hands. There's another interesting video popped up below that with that guy Fred, the barbershop guy.
Hawthorne, Fred Hawthorne.
Fred Hawthorne, that's the guy. I've not really got much time for him because I think
Fred the Hammer Williamson.
He's a bit of a race baiter for me, but at the same time, he did a video and he was actually stating that loads of those PBC fighters, and I don't know names, but they're saying that they are struggling, they're broke as fuck, as Matty would say.
Inactive too.
Inactive, as you say, they've got bills, they've got families. If they've been spending it on the jewellery, and maybe a big house and a couple of cars, that shit needs to get paid for. You got Conor Ben here kicking up fuck. He's got the same situation. You can guarantee it. He's got the houses and the cars to fucking pay for. So there's as you say, mate, there's something's going to implode here. The money's not there anymore. It's gone. It's fucking evaporated. Look at Eddie. Eddie's the same. The fucking money's gone.
Even Ed. As far as I remember from the PBC, like, and this will predate my time on the Asylum, but I remember like the pushback against Heyman at the start was ferocious. Like, it was, Golden Boy were running the show at the time, and everybody was cracking up. But yeah, that PBC took all the fighters, but their plan was at the time to turn PBC into the boxing UFC, wasn't it? Like, basically, so they sucked up all the talent pool around welterweight, middleweight, the exciting divisions. They had a stake, they had a horse in the race with Wilder at heavyweight.
In-house titles.
In-house titles and everything. So they had the model. The sport, it just doesn't capture the imagination like that. Not that it doesn't capture the imagination, but in that format, like on one channel, the PBC champion of the world or whatever, it was never going to, when there were so many different promotional bodies and sanctioning bodies and organizations and belts and fucking, commissions, it was never going to ever end up being the boxing UFC. And it's like everything, like it starts on a hedge fund and then they hope, they pay out big money, they speculate to accumulate, like they paid a lot of big money at the start, but like fighters going broke and all that, fellas that were getting like overpaid in the first place who are now fucking coming back for a handout, I kind of have no sympathy for them, like, because they should have better people around them and all, and sometimes as fighters they don't, but that's not on anybody else other than them. Some of them have got life-changing money. They should be fucking set up for life on some of those PBC salaries. I don't think that's necessarily Heyman's fault or anything, but the fact that they might have thought that it was a fucking unlimited bank balance or whatever, or a blank check, basically, for every time that they fight, they were going to be calling those numbers. I think that's definitely had an effect, or that's having an impact on the same impact on the sport that it's having across the entertainment. People don't pay for music anymore. People don't pay for movies anymore. People damn sure don't pay for fucking pay-per-views anymore. So the money's going to fucking come to an end. You have to look at the revenue. Like, and if PBC goes, I think it will be a shame because they didn't fully achieve what they set out to achieve, I think. But it's really
What about
fucking.
all those fighters, Robert, become free agents all of a sudden?
Well, they can go to the zone. There'll be plenty of fights for them.
Plenty of fights here they've been made, but the money's not there though. The money's not there.
So here's the great thing about it, though, is that nobody is going to be there to bail out boxing.
Yep, and that's why we're getting the Crawford fight. Going back to what the original point was about Crawford, is this fight between Spence and Crawford that would obviously take place in Texas, I would imagine, 70,000 at Jerry World, but the money is just. I just don't think it's just there for the guys to maximise it. And the longer we get it, man, the weight's going to be an issue, and then.
I hear you, but the thing is, I don't think the Crawford's afraid to go into 154 either. I don't think he gives a fuck. I think he thinks he could beat him. He can beat him, and he'll beat him. But as far as the big picture, let this all fall away. And if I was a boxing promoter, because collusion is illegal. But what you have to do as promoters, and they need to set themselves aside if they're going to make this work, and if they're going to kind of get talent opportunities, have a chance for everybody to make money. What they have to do is, because most of the big name fighters are working, in stuff they'll end up in a purse bid. They need to just do the purse bids. And they need to do them reasonably, and eventually, when the money dries up and nobody can make those $1 million bids, then nobody makes those $1 million bids. But all these promoters need to basically be prepared to go in there offering less money for a lot of these fights that need to get made. You shouldn't be getting paid 7 figures for an eliminator fight. That's ridiculous. There's obviously some fights that do better than that, and it's great.
Ricky Garcia, was it $3 million?
That was
to beat up Sandor Martin.
No, it was more than that. It was $6 or $7 million, Andy. So and yeah, it was stupid. Well, let me finish. And so you let that, and so they need to cut these fighters off, obviously, and let these purse bids go. And they need to, and if they need to, obviously there's network deals and things like that, but there's also gate, there's also promotion, and they need to take a cue from these fucking nutty ass cards that they're doing with YouTubers and every nitwit on the fucking corner of the podcast world. And they need to market these fights. They need to build them up. They need to have good gates, and they need to get these fighters into a percentage of X instead of just trying to write this whole check just so that you own the product and seeing what you can make out of it. There have been too many events that they've basically taken on as a loss leader, knowing that they're not going to be able to make their money on the fight, thinking maybe down the road, if X fights Y, then we'll make our money on that. But at the end of the day, all they did was screw everyone when somebody could have given a bid and they could have made money on the event. And it's... the people just need to let them spend their fucking money. Let them blow it until it's blown, and then boxing will go to normal operating procedures.
Bring back a great bunch of lads. At least the fighters were getting paid all the time. That's what I say.
And as much as we praise Al Heyman, Steve, my final point would be, as much as we praise Al Heyman and some of the great fights produced by PBC, let us never forget that Al Heyman and his operations are what ultimately caused HBO Boxing to fold. And HBO Boxing was the best boxing on the planet for almost
without a doubt.
Years.
Yeah, without
That's
a doubt.
True. It was on Skid Row though for a few years towards the end. I think Heyman
just
just
saw
saw the
Heyman got
opportunity to
involved.
take his money.
No fighters
As
left,
soon
was
as
there?
Yeah,
when he
Heyman,
got involved as an
Schaefer
advisor.
took all the fighters, didn't he? But
Aye.
then did he take them because Oscar was such a shit show behind the scenes?
Yeah, we'll see what happened. But it was an opportunity though, because Oscar was in rehab. I think it was the
Yeah.
eve of the Canelo Mayweather fight. Oscar's in rehab for coke addiction or whatever it was, and then bit by bit, he's just fighters. Yeah. But then now you've got like Charlo and that. He's, I think Regis Progress said he's not doing too well at the minute. I don't know if it's in terms of his health, mental health, financial health. I don't know, but one of the Charlo brothers is seem to be in a bit of a bad way just now as well.
The PBC's coming to an end now. They had a lot of money and they've burnt through a lot of money. Heyman set himself up as an advisor. Bernard Hopkins was absolutely right about that. So he got a percentage of everything. He is one wealthy man. He's a very smart man as well. He got in from the music business with Mayweather, but he's always interested in himself. I think he's done a lot of good for boxing. A lot of people got paid, but not anymore. The money's gone. The money's
And then
dried
you've
up.
got Floyd. You've got Floyd taking up exhibition fights and that. Why does he need to take exhibition fights? I thought he was minty.
Floyd's afraid of ever going
He's fighting a lad off Yarde Shore. He's got bigger
He
fish to
doesn't know
fry.
what to do with himself, does he? He doesn't know what to do with himself.
Floyd is fighting the fella with the green arm. That was on one of those the fucking tattooed lads. Aaron
That's right.
Chalmers. That's who he's genuinely
That's right.
fighting. His next. Fuck's sake.
Steve, Al Heyman did his job as an advisor. He made his clients a
Yes.
shit ton of money.
A lot of money.
And it's what's a shame about it though is basically what he took is he took these fighters basically and he said to them, "Hey, I'm going to get you fighting once a year and you're going to make the same money that you'd be making if you're fighting 2 or 3 times a year." And that's one of the reasons why boxing is failed, because the people, a lot of these guys, they're kind of making the same money that they would have normally, but they don't have to work as hard for it. And, that you see a lot of decline on that, not only just in the product, but also in the work ethic and the will of the fighters, because it's too easy for them to make absurd amounts of money. If you go down the list of fights where guys have made 7 figures in the last half dozen years, you'll go through it and you'd say over half of those fights, you're like, why? Why did they make $1 million for this? That's ridiculous.
I think as well, Matty, just to close, I know we have our differences on this, but I do blame both of the fighters. I also blame Spence and the PBC for that fight not happening. But at the moment, that fight just has to happen. And I think for Crawford, more than Spence, if you look at these next 2 fights of these guys, the fact that they're talking about him fighting Rocha says to me even more that he has got to do something. He's got to sign with somebody and get these fights, whether it's Ortiz or whoever it is, because like it or not, Spence, completely inactive. He's going to be out the ring for about 15, 16 months. But when we look back on their legacies in years to come, his win over Ugas, not a great fighter. He was a world champion, had just beaten Pacquiao. Thurman is washed to shit. On paper, in so many years' time, you'll look at the Thurman, who was a puncher at one point coming up, unbeaten knockout artist, beat a good version of Garcia, a good version of Porter. So you got Ugas, right? You got Thurman. And in that same time, Crawford's resume will have Avanesian and Alexis Rocha on it. If that's not a kick up the arse for Crawford, I don't know what is.
It sucks, but I guess the comparison at this point would be, at that kind of middle point of, when their rivalry kind of started. What about the resumes of Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather? Not exactly a murderer's row, is it? When you're talking about that kind of period at welterweight.
No. Jesus. No. I think that's harsh. I think that's fucking harsh on the two of them.
It's not a murderer's row at some point. Like, you got to give some credit to some of those fighters. Like, I think that the version of Mosley that Mayweather beat was still a really good version of Shane Mosley. I rate that win really high. I think Pacquiao's win over Miguel Cotto.
He fought 18 months on Mosley because he had the Bertel fight got cancelled because of the Haiti earthquake or something like that.
Some shit, yeah.
But he went to the ring for 18 months, Mosley, by that point. And apart from that one moment in the second round, he had done shit that whole fight.
Well, don't dissect the whole thing, because I think Floyd, he was masterful in the way he recovered and figured Mosley out in that fight. But they peppered in. They have wins, but there was not a whole lot of good stuff in there at the end of the day. There was some bullshit in there. Like, I will constantly say that Pacquiao, what is he, 9 or an 8? He's one less than they list him as, because beating Margarito, who never held a 154-pound belt at 150-pound catch weight for a vacant belt, isn't exactly a championship title victory in my world. Sorry.
No, that you know what? You're right. That plays into my point about Aaron being the master matchmaker. There was holes to pick, I suppose, in the resume of both of them, but having said that, it's nothing compared to fucking today. Like, Manny Pacquiao was fucking lined up to fight Alexis Rocha, or fucking, do you know what I mean? Or David Avanesian. Jesus Christ.
Or God, like fighting Chris Algieri. Could you imagine if he fought Chris Algieri, Rob?
Let him out of the cage anytime soon.
Yeah, there you go. Going to Australia and being beaten by Jeff Horn, being pushed around by a bigger guy. Yeah,
but that was right to the end of Pacquiao's career.
Though, fuck's sake.
Look at Pacquiao's record, that run he went on from, I can't even remember from who it was, up until Bradley. That's just...
I thought
Matty.
yes, I thought there was that good run there, but then there's spots in there, and then there's the after that, and it's kind of it really is. You got to admit it. And Crawford's
I don't know though, man.
Crawford's 35 years old.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I think Crawford has enough currency in the bank to carry him to this point, but enough is enough, like Steve said. Like I think unifying the 135 and 40, winning a title at 47, being avoided at 47, but his resume at 47 includes Wash Demirkan, Wash Kell Brook, David Avanesian, fucking Klamalis, was it? He was fucking Kavalowskis. Beterbiev'S, I suppose, will give him a good fight, but welterweight, like he had with the run on ESPN, we were all blaming Aaron, like. You know what I mean? Everyone was blaming Bob Aaron, but now he's in control of his own affairs. Like Steve says, he needs somebody there. He needs a machine, and he needs somebody that can make him that big fight. Like,
all right, here you go. Let's see here: Victoriano Sosa, Philip Indu, DeMarcus Corley, Henry Bruceless, Arturo Gatti, Sharmba Mitchell. Wow.
They're not a 47. They're not a 47. They didn't fight fucking Sharmba Mitchell at 47.
No, I'm saying, but I mean, there's these periods where who gives a fuck who these guys fight? I mean, seriously, history is a motherfucker. We always rate things like in a weird way when it's I don't know, through the lens of the day. I mean, I remember being unimpressed at times. Don't you guys? I mean, now we're back like,
well, here's a run for you.
Days.
Here's a run for you, Matty. Ray Beltran, Thomas Delorme, Thierry Jean, Henry Lundy, Victor Postol, John Molina, Felix Diaz, Julius Indongo.
How many undefeated fighters in that stretch?
Julius Indongo, 22-0. Victor Postol, 28-0. And that's it.
Felix Diaz once beaten at that point in time, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Here's your. Let's see here. So you got what? Joshua Clottey, Margarito, Ghost of Shane Mosley, Marquez third time, Bradley, Marquez, Rios, Bradley. It's it's the same guy over and over again. Number one, it's these guys.
No, but that's what I'm saying.
Postol's a good win, by the way.
It is. Win. But if you're looking at names, I mean, you go in Pacquiao, you're going Morales, Larios, Morales, Barrera, Marquez, De La Hoya, Hatton, Cotto, Clottey, Margarito, Mosley, Marquez again, Bradley. I mean.
Well, and your lens of time is fucking De La Hoya was a fucking done at the weight. That was absolute madness. Ricky Hatton was a drunken, coked out mess who had a fucking mad training camp where he basically had two trainers and didn't know what way was up, right? It's like there's a lot of holes. Manny Pacquiao's resume is a lot of fighters who were past their best at welterweight. And a
lot of them were coming off a loss as well, which was a point Floyd used to bang home a lot. Like a lot of them were off a loss when they faced Pacquiao. Like.
Yep, I mean Algieri was a 140-pound champion. I mean, and you could throw all this blah 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 in there. And basically, my general point is, a lot of fighters' resumes are very very disappointing. Most fighters are their resumes are disappointing. Every great fighter has a bunch of shit fights smattered with some good ones in there where the names really mattered. You got,
but when Pacquiao's good ones and the names mattered came, the names really mattered at some point. Like you're talking De La Hoyas, you're talking Hattons, you're talking Marquez's.
Bob Arum, right? Great matchmaking.
Against Indongos, Brooks, and Carnes. Well, I suppose I am arguing with you, really.
Well, in Indongo, I mean, that was to unify. Khan was a name. Brook was, former champion who had a lot of opponents with Spence, and I think you want to do a little compare and contrast when you're trying to build a fight, right? It's so I don't know. I think you go through everything, and everybody's resume is a little bit disappointing because there's so many fights that they're spread out over. I mean, Floyd Mayweather is over 50 fights. Manny Pacquiao is more than 70 fights. Ray Leonard has a fairly tight resume because he only fought like 35 times in his career, right? It's a
frustration for me, though, Matty.
Yes,
I always think Crawford is on the verge of smashing through 3 or 4 top names and becoming an absolute generational star. and it just never happens. And he fights another Rocha, and you're like, you're so much better than this.
Yes, and it sucks. But I bet you can go back through the years and you could always find those fights that didn't happen or they happened past their fucking prime date. You know, I mean, going back decades and decades and decades and decades, you know, why didn't these guys fight? And then they finally do. I mean, and the fights that didn't happen, you never had, you know, Bo fight Lennox Lewis, right? That never happened. So
Lewis's resume stands up without that fight.
It's incredible resume, but you just kind of got to leave it as it is. And Spence's resume isn't that incredible either, is it, Steve?
No,
I mean,
no,
yeah,
not at all.
and that's like they need each other. And it's a shame that they can't get this out of the way because everyone's waiting on them to get it on, and it's a shame because there's a batch of about 10 fighters below them of older veterans, the new up and comers who could have some fire fucking fights in the division, just trying to get mandatory challenges and going that way. I mean, we could have you take a board of these top welterweights and just do a makes and match. There's a dozen fights up there that are mouth-watering when you think about them.
Do you know what?
That's get Spence and Crawford out of the way. You're right.
That's the nail on the head. They need each other,
yeah.
And there's not enough pressure coming from the boxing media because everyone has a stake. There's different people want access to these guys. Different people have, are stakeholders in their career or whatever. And there's not enough people just saying, like, you just fucking need each other. Like, for boxing, you just need each other. Like, do it, for your own careers and all great. Like, but that has an impact on the end consumer of the sport, which is us. Like, well, I say consumer lightly, but you know what I mean. The end spectators of the sport, which is us.
Well, we consume it.
Brilliant, Rob.
By some means. Brilliant. No, so Andy, final point to you, because sorry, I kind of hijacked your point, which is that the PBC's on Skid Row. I agree with you on that. Yeah.
The PBC's going to implode, mate. We'll just move on for it. I can say I think it'll be interesting over the course of this year that if we see some of the bigger fights getting made and it's no on Showtime with the PBC, and there's a problem. And I'll just end by saying there is a video out there where Deontay Wilder mentioning about fighters waiting to get paid. What the fuck's happening there?
Well, that's one thing you'd never heard before. For all their faults, the PBC paid well and they paid on time.
Yep, that's true. Yep. But as B-Hop says, the well has seemingly run dry, so they're just trying to run shows on the budget, basically.
Broner said he's not getting paid, which is fair enough. It's about time they fucking got to their senses and stopped paying Broner.
Oh shit! He's like that fucking child that keeps fucking up, and you have to keep bailing them out of their problems.
About billions.
Oh dear. Right, let's move on. Thanks for that, boys. That was a good discussion as always. Few points next week. We'll just mention these in case they turn out to be barn burners. Over in Canada on Thursday, so we'll try and watch this one on Friday morning if we can. Eric Bazinian, 28-0 with 21 knockouts, originally from Armenia, is going in against Alantes Fox, so we'll keep an eye on him, see if he does the business there. Also, I know you mentioned this one last night, Matty, or last week. I can't remember when it was now. Jezreel Corrales is travelling over to Russia to fight Albert Batagaziev, that's easy for me to say, 7-0 with 5 knockouts. Look like he's on the fast track, nicknamed Alba.
Medalist.
Yep, beat Ricardo Nunes in his last fight, who I think fought Tank at one point. So that could be a bit of an interesting fight there. Possibly, Andy, if he gets rid of Corrales, maybe make a bit of a statement, although I think Corrales passed his best now.
Yeah, I think so. To be honest, I think the last time I seen Corrales was with the Colbert fight. I remember there was a shock defeat somewhere along the lines.
Yes, he lost to Colbert a couple of years ago, and he had a win over a 27-0 guy in his last fight, though.
Did he? The Russian kid, I can vaguely remember him in the Olympics in Tokyo. I'm sure he won gold. I think it was over an American actually. Mixed it with some of the top amateurs and that. As you say, he's been fast tracked by all sounds of it, but to be honest, I don't know what's happening to the Russian fighters these days, if they're going to get world title shots as such, or if they're going to be ranked, or if they're banned or whatever and that. But yeah, it might be something free on YouTube, but I wouldn't be kind of going out my way to watch it, to be fair. The Russian cards have kind of really nosedived over the last few years anyway. I'll tell you what though, I take it we're going to mention talking about Friday night actually, the Bob Arms card next week on ESPN, Navarette against Wilson.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that. We're gonna go. In fact, if you might as well get stuck into that now. Navarette was originally supposed to fight. Who was he? The guy. Oh, his name's blank me. Fought Scott Quigg, didn't they? Valdez? Wasn't Valdez the original opponent for Navarette? Am I right in saying that? Oscar Valdez, was he? Or am I making that up?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I was really looking
Yeah, I
forward
think
to
he
that one.
was, yeah. He's got Liam Wilson in anyway, this Australian. They gave him a UK flag or something on ESPN, apparently, so that's how much attention they're paying to it. What are you expecting from this, Andy?
I'm expecting Navarette to win, and possibly by late stoppage. Maybe something that's great for me. I think Wilson is a bit chinny, to be fair. He is listed as an orthodox fighter, but he can. I've seen him fight southpaw, and that was part of the reason why when we got knocked out against that Joe Noine. Obviously, he's come back, knocked him out majorly in the rematch, left hook, I'm sure it was, and he has iced some of his opponents in his kind of early pro career with left hooks, and he can really step into it. So I'm just wondering actually if it is a bit of a kind of shootout, just watch out for Wilson for throwing the left hook. But
He's
he does
a
have a
big
tendency.
boy at the weight too, Andy.
Yeah,
He's a big boy.
But I don't know about you, Matt, if you've watched enough. But is it a thing where he's like switch hitting like Crawford, or does he just switch between stances naturally? Because from what I've seen him against the Filipino, he got opened up. And then obviously he's come back. His left hook is pretty brutal.
It is. I see all what you're saying, Andy. And I just think that this could be a really fun fight because Navarette, for everything that's good about him, he's really sloppy in his work. He squares up, crosses over himself, and I just think these guys could have some brutal exchanges where people are off balance. And I think honestly, Wilson, being the naturally bigger guy at the weight, Navarette moving up. But I mean, he's like a 10-1 underdog in this fight. Like I'm like, man, I'm like, dude, moving up to a new weight class against a big guy who has competed at this weight and at some higher weights. It could be interesting. At the very least, Navarette is a lot of his stoppages are later on in the fight. So I'm going to be looking at the over-under on this one because if it's anywhere in the middle of the fight, I think I'm going over because the only person I think might get stopped early in this one is Navarette.
You think so?
Yeah, and I don't think Navarette loses, but I just think it's going to take a while for him as the smaller guy to accumulate punishment on Wilson. And so again, against smaller fighters, it's taken him a fair amount of rounds oftentimes to take him out. So I do think that this is going to be a late stoppage in this fight.
Has Navarette ever been dropped? Never been stopped?
He's been dropped, I'm sure.
Has he?
He had trouble with Ruben Villa when he wasn't dropping Villa, but Villa was a slick boxer. This Wilson, he's going to be a stereotypically tough Aussie, isn't he, coming forward?
Yeah.
I think Navarette will beat the shit out of him, to be honest.
I think if he lands something solid on Wilson, he could go anytime actually, but I don't know. I'm going to stick with Navarette late stoppage. It is an interesting one, but it says the Noine fight kind of like woke me up. Okay, he reversed it, but again, it was a bit of a kind of shocker actually. To be fair, and he was behind on the cards as well.
Undercard's decent, Matty, in this one actually. I see Nico Ali Walsh down the bottom. Didn't even realise he was on.
Who's his granddad again?
I'm not sure, to be honest. Billy Walsh, wasn't it? The Irish
Billy
team
Walsh,
coach.
that's who it was. Rob knows that guy.
What else is on there? The only one that I saw on there that I was really interested in, obviously we'll get to, is Pedraza against Barbosa.
Yeah, Barbosa. You've got Xavier Martinez is returning, although I don't know how good his opponent is. Luis Melendez is a decent fighter, so he should be in a good scrap with Andreas Cortez. I think it's deep on decent fights, Matty, is what I'm saying, rather than just throwing in the likes of Reagan and Bruce Carrington and them kind of boys. And who else is on?
I think Reagan is a fucking disaster waiting to happen. I think
Carrington is.
Yeah, I think those two are the weakest Olympians of the bunch that Bob signed.
Matty, here's what you should be doing this week for the prediction league. Actually, Richard Torres, that each person who's involved here actually picks the round that he wins by stoppage.
No.
Why not?
No.
Why not? It's better than your shite that you wanted to talk about, Jezreel Corrales going into
I appreciate the input, but I'm trying to give you guys a heads up. So, but I appreciate the input. Give me input next time you have an idea earlier in the week, and I will definitely consider it.
Well, I don't want to talk to you earlier in the week, so I'm usually in a bad mood early.
Right. Ozzy, any interest in Navarette, Wilson, Barbosa, Pedraza is a good fight on the undercard. I think it's a decent card, this, from ESPN, you know.
Yeah, it's a decent card. I think Navarette will win, and pretty comfortably as well. There's nothing really to add. Is it part of our prediction league or not? I've just had a look at the schedule, actually, and it's pretty, for the last couple of weeks that we've had in terms of big fights and notable fights, the coming weekend is actually pretty sparse, to be honest.
Yeah, what is in the prediction league, Matty? Are any of these included or not?
Well, we'll get to that at the end. But like I said, I think this is a 3-fight week because there's 3 that are hard to choose from. We're going Barbosa, Pedraza. We're going the Corrales fight, and we're also going to go the Hitchens Bauza fight, which Joe Kennedy thinks Bauza is very live.
How we fuck?
Bauza's not live. Right. So for Ozzy, then. We've talked about Barbosa, Pedraza, so you can give us your prediction on that. And Corrales, who's the opponent again?
Remember, we'll wait till the end, and I'll draw everything out. We can
right,
finish.
okay. I'll leave you in charge of that.
Yeah,
right.
groovy.
Okay, sorry. Rob, I want to talk to you quickly about Edgar Berlanga leaving ESPN. He's going to sign with Eddie, apparently. I wouldn't touch him with a barge pole, personally.
What?
And I think
him against Malakuziev, baby.
Eddie getting the cast-offs again.
Yeah, but... Bob Arum said on an interview that they disagreed in the direction that they were both going. That basically Berlanga claimed he wanted tougher fights, and basically Arum said he's not ready for it.
They want that,
so he wanted to not slow it down as in like just absolute punks, but not top level guys. And Berlanga claimed he's ready. So Arum said, "Well, I don't want to step in his way. All the best." So. Eduardo.
Eddie will get him fucking ruined, man. I'm telling you right now.
Use essentially is probably not an opponent, but it's going to be interesting to see what Eduardo will do with him. See if he dances to the tune of Berlanga, that's for sure.
I don't know. I think from what I saw of it online, most people were saying, well, ESPN and Arum saw the writing on the wall here. Like, if he was any good at his age, 25 years of age. If he was any good at 25, like, and at 68, where there's mega fights to be made with a good prospect, like, I don't think Arum would be letting him go. So, let's see if Ed can bring him to the dizzy heights that he brought Demetrius Andrade to on the zone. You know what I mean? There's a fight, actually. There's a potential fight that could be made. Andrade versus Berlanga, the fight you didn't know you wanted till you get it. So look, the fellas want to make these decisions, and he feels he wants to push on after victories over Steve Rolls and Angulo. I don't know. Like, I think any of the top guys at 68 are absolutely smashing the bits from what I've seen of him. I think he's a bit of a shit as well as a personality and that. Like, so I don't know. He's probably so retarded, to be honest with you. So I hope they make a lot of money together.
Matty, give us a shout out on the female card then before we go on to predictions, and then Bellew of the weeks, please. Matty, Serrano, Cruz.
Sorry about that. Yeah, that's going to be in New York City. It's going to be headlined by Amanda Serrano against Erica Cruz for the undisputed featherweight championship at 126 pounds. Cruz is a decent enough fighter. She's also a southpaw like Serrano. I think this is actually going to be a really good blend of styles. She likes to lean in, throw to the body a little bit. But I do think that she's going to play in Amanda's hands. And if Amanda still has a good motor on her, I think that she's going to win the fight and that she might even be able to come up with a stoppage late. Cruz does seem to kind of start running out of gas a little bit later. But that has been Amanda's problem too. So I'm very curiously watching this one. It's for me, the key with it is that I just I want to see Amanda obviously get a big win, get her confidence back. This would be a big step for getting that all the belts at 126 pounds. And if she can get all the belts at 126 pounds, then in the fight that's on the undercard of this one, then I think that she has a chance to get she's going to have a chance at maybe even getting all the belts at 130 pounds too, should Alicia Baumgardner come out of it and of her fight, and they'll make that. For whatever reason, though, I do have some issues with the fight that Alicia Baumgardner is in. I'm sorry, I'm getting her opponent's name. It was hard to pronounce here, because the person she should be fighting is Delphine Persoon. If they're going for the next ranked, and she had the silver belt in the fight that she actually beat Elhem Makhalad in a really good fight in the Middle East in I believe it was November. That she should have been in there with Baumgardner when they skipped over Choi, and unfortunately they didn't do that. But that said, Makhalad, that's a really weird name for me to say, sorry. She is a very good fighter who gave a great account of herself against Persoon. That was an exceptional back and forth fight, and I can't believe I didn't mention it on the year wrap up of Chicks with Dig, because it truly was a good fight. And I guess if for some reason on all the legit ends of things they couldn't get Persoon, cool that Makhalad got this fight, but it should have been Persoon. That said, she's going to give Baumgardner a lot of troubles. She throws hard. She's not going to just be trying to box like Mayer did. She's going to be willing to make it a rougher fight. So this one could be a good fight. Both of these fights could stand to deliver as far as action goes. Like I said, I think I'm going to be going Serrano probably by a decision, and I think Baumgardner with some shaky moments in this one, Rob. Yeah, I worry. I don't even know that you should watch this one, Rob, because I think your heart might stop a few times, because this Makhalad, she's a solid fighter. Like I said, she gave Persoon one hell of a bout.
Well, I'll take a look at her at the weigh-in and make my decision about her then. But no, I think Baumgartner's going to come through this one. I have faith in her. So she's been posting a lot of pictures on Instagram to say that she's ready for Undisputed. She's done it quite often, actually. It's kind of all she talks about. So I have a feeling she's laser focused for the win here, and it's a fight you're going to be talking about in your year-end synopsis for 2023 for Chicks with Dig. The night Baumgartner became Undisputed, baby. She's undisputed to me as it stands, so she can have that belt anytime she wants it.
There you go. She's got that going for her, which is nice. But yeah, I think this is a really good fight, and it does have that Hitchens and Bowser fight on there as well. So a decent card coming in on Saturday night over here in the States. Looking forward to this one. Another well-matched night of women's boxing action.
Okay, Matty, do you want to take over with the Prediction League particulars, please?
Yes, we will absolutely do that. Let's see here. Let's start out with, and Steve, we didn't really get to preview this. We didn't get a chance to
evidence-based research.
we didn't get a chance to really preview this fight much either. So on this one, I'd kind of like the guys to get into their piece a little bit, because this is an interesting fight between Arnold Barbosa and Jose Pedraza. Pedraza had that draw with Richard Comey recently. He was supposed to be in there against Teofimo Lopez. Barbosa, not much of a puncher. He had a little bit of a rough fight recently where he got touched a little bit. Pedraza might not be much of a puncher, but the first person I drew is Oz. And Oz, I'm curious what way you're going on this one, because I constantly keep going on this one, looking at Pedraza paying 4-1 as the underdog. He has one of the best resumes in boxing. The experience gap in this fight is massive.
Yeah, it's a difficult one to call, actually. I always think, Pedraza, aside from, I think it was when, Tank absolutely annihilated him, and that was a fight that I think Floyd, judged perfectly, and he wouldn't have put Tank in, if he didn't think he could win. But aside from that, it sounds odd, but I wouldn't say, look, Lomachenko was a clear winner, but at the same time, he was live in that as well, when he gave, a steady account of himself. The Zepeda fight as well, from memory again. He's been one of those Neely guys, rather than, he's always just fallen short. Again, a draw against Richard Comey, solid, similar level guy. Barbosa, again, tidy enough. lot of points decisions. I think his stoppages. A lot of his stoppages came relatively, in the middle of his career. Last 4 or 5 fights, I think, all gone the distance. It's quite a difficult one to call, really.
I'm just shocked that Pedraza was a 4-1 underdog.
Yeah,
I had to hop on that just for pure value. I don't give a
So I
shit.
was going to say, I am going to go with Barbosa by decision. However, to the complete opposite, I think Pedraza's overpriced at 4-1. And if he was to pinch a decision, it wouldn't surprise me. But he's in the away corner. I'm going to go with Barbosa via a decision. But I think 4-1 is too big for someone of Pedraza's ability for me. But yeah, I'll stick with Barbosa on the decision win.
All right. And let's see here. Next up, let's get Andy. Andy, you're in the lead, man. You got 11 points right now. But I had a big week. I'm in second with 9 points with a perfect week. Being the first one to get it and get that extra point. Remember, you get them all right exactly, you get an extra point.
So what fight we're talking about?
Barbosa and Pedraza.
I'll go Pedraza points, mate.
Pedraza on points. All right. And Steve.
I'm going for Barbosa on points. I think Pedraza's going to push him really close. He took a shellacking from Lomachenko in that 11th round. I don't know how he made it out the round, to be honest. Very tough, very good resume. Going to be really close. Maybe a majority, maybe a split. People might even think Pedraza's won the fight. It's going to be very close, but Barbosa will get it by a point or two here and there, and then move on to fight Lopez.
All right. And I am next, and I'm going with Pedraza on points too. And the thing about it is there's very few moments in Pedraza's career when a non-puncher has bothered him, and Barbosa's not a puncher. I think the most shocking outcome in this fight for me would be a Barbosa stoppage, honestly. Rob, where are you going?
Yeah, Barbosa on points for me. I think Pedraza's a tough operator, but I just think on fundamentals, Barbosa would be neater and tidier over 12 rounds. You're right. Like, I don't see him stopping Pedraza. Tank is the only one that stopped him. He's lost to Ramirez, had a decent result against Kami. Who else he lose to? Lomachenko probably should have been stopped, as Steve said. But as Ozzy said, he's a live dog in every fight he's in. But he doesn't always look like he's going to get over the line. And I just think house favourite favours Barbosa on decision.
All right. So we got 3 going Barbosa points, 2 going Pedraza points. Looks like we're seeing it as a distance fight at the very least. I think that is where we're in agreement on that one. And then we got a fight that's on the undercard of the Amanda Serrano fight from New York City with undefeated former Olympian Richardson Hitchens against also undefeated John Bauza. Let's see here. And first one up on that one is going to be me. And I think I'm going to go with Hitchens on points. I have a hard time going by knockout when someone hasn't lost before. So let's see here. Andy, where are you going?
Hitchens points, mate.
Hitchens points. All right. And then next up, we got Rob.
Well, you all know I'm a big fan of Hitchinson. So I can't see past him for a points decision over Bowser, baby.
Okay. Let's see here. And we got Steve.
Yeah, Hitchens on points for me. Another one who's left the PBC. Very dull, got a lot of opportunities. Skipped the Floyd exciting phase, went straight onto the very negative defensive first kind of phase. He's boring to watch, but he's going to be too much for Bowser. He'll be on points, but it's not going to be pretty to see.
All right. Wow, so we're all in agreement. Oz, it looks like we might have a throwaway unless you're going something different than Hitchens points.
Negative, mate. Full house, Hitchens points.
All right. So there you go, Andy. That's why I have another one in the back pocket. And all right, so we're going over to Russia, which I do not recommend really anybody to do. For veteran Jezreel Corrales against undefeated 7-0, moving him lightning fast, Albert Batsiragiziev. Let's see who's going where on this one here. But all right. Ooh, crap. All right. Oz, looks like you get back-to-back there, buddy.
Which fight was this again? Sorry.
Jezreel Corrales against Albert Batsiragiziev, 7-0. Corrales just coming back recently, but he's reeled off 3 victories, including one over undefeated Miguel Medueno. Another one where there's a massive experience gap.
Yeah, over in Russia, isn't it? On Saturday in the away corner. Difficult one, really. I've got to say, I have not seen this Russian guy whatsoever. I've not seen any footage of him, so I have no idea what he is like. 7-0, 5 KOs, can clearly dig. Don't know many on his record as such, in terms of big names, apart from that Ricardo Nunes, who banged out in 7 rounds. I'm going to go with it. It's going to be, I'm going outside the box here, try and get some early points. I'm going to go Corrales to pinch a decision, I think. I'm going to stick with experience, go with what I know, go with what I've seen. Corrales, coming off 3 wins, 1 KO in that as well. Yeah, I'll stick with Jezreel Corrales for the decision win.
Yeah, it's really interesting when there's such a huge experience gap. It makes things very interesting because you're always wondering, have they moved them too fast? Let's see here. Next up, we got Steve.
I'm like Ozzy. I've never seen Beterbiev'S fight whatsoever, but I think Corrales is on the way out. I was trying to remember what his one knockout loss was. And Alberto Machado, remember when he knocked out Corrales? He was kind of the HBO darling at the time. And then we found out against Andrew Cancio that he was an absolute terrible to the body, just couldn't take the body shots. But Corrales since then has been pretty stable. And then we got dropped by Colbert, lost on points as well. He's sturdy, but I think Beterbiev'S, he's the home fighter, the home money, good Olympic pedigree. He's only had 7 fights, but he's been fast-tracked. So having not seen him, I'm going to go for him on points against Corrales, 12 rounds.
All right. Let's see here. Next up, we have me. I have a hunch that the young guy, despite all the experience gap and everything like that, and the possibility of getting something favorable hometown, I think I am going to have to go with Beterbiev'S by knockout. So
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see that either, to be honest.
Yeah, well, it's the fact that I said it, so it probably isn't going to happen, Steve. But we can dream. Let's see here, and Andy, you are next, sir. Andy.
Oh, sorry, I was muted.
What fight is it?
Sorry, I was on mute there. Batsiragiziev and points, mate.
Points, you got it. Rob, round us out.
Batsiragiziev inside the distance with a body shot, based on only shit that people have said in this chat, because I've never fucking seen him either. But he sounds like a hard bastard, so I'm going to go with him. And especially if the fight's in Russia and that, I think Jezreel Corrales doesn't stand much chance of winning. And let's hope all of them escape getting sold into sexual slavery of some sort when they're over there. So let's look on the bright side. But I think it's going to be Batsiragiziev inside the distance.
Right. What were the predictions from last week? Do you have the results to hand or not?
Yeah. So on that one, you had a rough week, Oz. You had Delakayan by stoppage in the under, so you only got 2 points. Andy got 5 points. He had the over, and he took stoppage too. Steve and Rob just got the points on Delakayan because they took the under. And I had a perfect week with the the over and Delakayan on points. So Andy's at 11. I'm at 9. Rob and Steve are at 8, and you're at 7, but you missed that first week too. So I hope it doesn't haunt you down the stretch.
Well, Oz records are for DJs, man. Don't worry about
Mate, ultimately, we don't stand a fucking chance when we're doing predictions on people called Richardson, Hitchens, and stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right, man. You're right.
Yeah, man,
Do you know what? Like,
you've
I'm with
actually
the
got
guy,
a hardcore virgin fucking hardcore fan to watch that shite, man.
Speaking of
Hold
virgin
on,
hardcore fans,
I live in the United States, and I threw up fucking Echo Esseman against Chris Congo for fuck's sake. So don't say that
that's
I don't
AIDS as
spread
well.
it around.
listen.
AIDS as well.
Speaking of virgin hardcore fans, I was tuned into the Boxing Nutters messenger group phone in, and the guy who's the fake Gabe, him from North Carolina, he was like, "Can you just drop me out of this prediction league? You're ruining my enjoyment of the sport."
While he was driving an 18-wheeler, Rob.
Yeah. He's like, "I fucking hate this fucking prediction. I have to root for fellas. I don't like it. Everything is fucking ruining it." Oh.
Well, in the prediction league is rip roaring over in the Nutters group. Joe Kennedy with the 1-point lead right now, and there's a good number of people in there. It should be a nice pot at the end. So good times to be had with the Nutters.
Yeah, well said. What other fights have we got? Or is that all three of them? Have we done them?
We got them.
Super duper. Let's move on then, shall we, to Belly of the Week before we close out to 10 past 10 on this Sunday evening, episode 508. Matty's there doing the prediction league. Andy's here as well. So is Ozzy and rapping Rob Kelly. We're going to play us in with here. Bit of Mark Tibbs. Haven't heard from Mark in a while. He didn't manage to catch the Eubank Smith fight, unfortunately, and he had a rather unique reason.
Oh, I've got to be straight with you here. I've got all set up to watch that fight. And I'm looking forward to it for weeks, and I never got to watch it. I was in Spain, and I was chilling, and I started off early to watch the fight, and I kind of pre-ejaculated.
You what?
Pre-ejaculated.
I was going to tell you something. I was going to say something there.
I'll tell you what, man, he was a full cliche mode when he was getting interviewed yesterday, actually, or on Friday. He was on Undercard with again? Was it what's the fighter's name?
I remember, Andy.
I can't remember. Well, that's what he was like. He was like all the cliches and that.
I wonder, was that what he was going to say when he was on BT Sport that night?
You mean this, Rob?
Of course, it is. You know, like my man here. Sorry, I've got. You said earlier on, what do we call it? Bloody hell! I'll say something now.
Okay, let me put another thought in your mind, if I may. And we were speaking earlier about Billy Joe Saunders and the preparation before the Plant fight. Before the Alvarez fight. But there was apparently a moment of realization with Billy where maybe Plant is now. Hang on, this is for real now. It's different then, isn't it? However well you've prepared and however many plans you may have.
Yeah, well, what it bloody lost it now. What was I going to say now? I was going to say something.
Okay, tell us about your own experience with Billy Joe.
I can't even watch the rest of that.
I swear, grim.
I swear that was me last night after your man stopped me to ask for directions. I jumped back on to try and answer the question. I was like, I was going to say something there. I was going to fucking fuck off with his pizza.
That's fucking grim, man. That's when you actually want to take an injection of heroin and fucking force an air bubble right into your vein, you know? Fucking hell, man. Is it Jack WD fucking painful? Yeah, it was, mate.
He pre-ejaculated. Right, anyway. Oh, we've lost Ozzy, unfortunately, for Belly of the Week. I was just about to bring this to his attention.
He pre-ejaculated as well.
He pre-ejaculated. Cuentas Pendientas over in Bolivia. We had Saul Farah, El Phoenix Assassino, going in against Pedro Guanichaba, El Loco, crazy.
Aye, but look at the titles, though, Steve. Campeon, National, Bridgerweight, Sudamericano, and Latino Americano. Yeah, El Mas Macho.
That is Carde Grande, Steve, I think.
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, here's the boys weighing in. There he is.
The
national champion.
What's he standing on for a weigh-in then? What's the scales?
Big Juan Fisher in the background there in the red vest.
Say Bosh. Big size of him, man. This is when we need Aussie, man, to fucking just let rip, you know? Yeah, focus.
I know, yeah.
That guy's also fighting for the bridgerweight title, the bridge between life and death.
Steve, what fight number is this by? Is this fight number 10 by any chance? 22?
Do you think the fella in the red vest just thinks that's a buffet table and he's just standing there disappointed now? Like,
well, there he is. There's Soul Farah. Johnny Garcia's let himself go.
There's a fella who hasn't missed a buffet table, let me tell you.
Look at that, man. You're fucking crushing your own nuts to stand on that fucking scale. What the fuck? Look at the size of it. It's like a fucking dinner plate.
Fucking, it starts Monday.
Look at the fucking
The
size.
black socks as well at the weigh-in, man. What's
I know. I think he's got one up at the calf, one underneath his ankle. What the fuck? Ankle socks.
Oh, good old Soul. Rob, you referenced this earlier.
Oh, fuck.
Money Mayweather, the Joker.
I didn't care this was the guy with the green arm by me.
Yeah, that's the guy with the green eye. Irish green.
How the fuck is he got this payday?
Well, apparently he was. You knew the guy. He was scheduled to fight. So Floyd put up a poster first to give this context. He put up a poster on his Instagram of a fight that was made with some kickboxer lad.
Yeah,
Riley Harrison, and it's like next fight, London, boom, boom, boom. Want to see all the Floyd fans there, TMT, and then your man's come out and said, I can't take this fight, like I have surgery scheduled. I don't know what Floyd's talking about. So then he took down that post and he put this one up again. Done deal. Floyd fights the lad off Geordie Shore. So Floyd is the blame for all this fucking YouTube fucking breakthrough, like, because he broke the mold with the Conor McGregor exhibition on pay-per-view, like, and that set the stage for what you're seeing now. So I suppose it's only right. It's only right that after such a lustrous exhibition opponents as what's his name? Fucking Mr. Nascimento or whatever the fuck his name was over in Japan that he beat the living shit out of, made him cry. Logan Paul and fucking who else did he have? Some fella on the roof of the Burj Khalifa, and now he's fighting the lad from Geordie Shore in England in the O2. Yeah, a fellow with the green arm. Royal Pain. Who's doing the posters for this? Like, it's not the money team anyway. Fucking hell.
Mate, it's all about the back end. It's all about the back end, mate. It's all about the profit. Fuck your fucking digital fucking posters and shit.
Just cut out a picture of your man, stick him out. This is the exact same poster, by the way, as the first one. It just has your man on it this time. Fucking unbelievable.
But Rob, we should be happy. He's recycling. We're not getting asked to recycle.
Climate change, Floyd.
Save the planet.
Greta Thunberg's. If you squint there, you can see Greta Thunberg's eyes in the background. She's just looking over the fucking.
Greta skeletons.
Meta Thunberg.
How dare you?
Oh man, on a side by that is the best fucking rap name for a rapper from Queens, Meta Thunberg. Unbelievable. Right,
Megatron.
Oh, good stuff. Right, anyway, enough of this nonsense, boys. On to the serious stuff. Lovejoy's back. There's a poster for you. War on the Shore 4, featuring American heavyweight contender Christopher Lovejoy there with his GBO title against an opponent who doesn't even have a name.
Oh no! Wait a minute. Actually, where's my phone? Because I messaged you guys during. Who is it? The fuck he's been linked with? But Rob, go and check your WhatsApp. I put it in the WhatsApp.
Colonel Sanders.
Christopher Lovejoy and some other fatty, wasn't it? It was
Oh, who the fuck was it? It was a British boy, wasn't it? Though. Sorry, Steve. Can you remember?
You're getting as bad as this fella.
Right, the sacrifices.
Oh, it was John Fisher's son.
Ordinary people wouldn't understand the sacrifices and the. You know,
see, Steve's fucked me there because he put a video and then he's put it on.
It's John Fisher's son.
It was Labosh.
Yeah.
Speaking Morse code now. But aye, sorry mate, it was Johnny Fisher. Johnny Labosh.
Yeah, that's right. GBO belt on the line.
Christopher
Lovejoy. Can't you throw a right hand?
Versus a fella like Edgar Berlanga. It's not Edgar Berlanga. We don't know what his name is, but I tell you what, Ryan Deal, who does all the fucking photoshops, there's a gap in the market, mate. Just fucking turn your love of boxing. You know, put your focus into something positive. Get yourself a life and start doing fight posters because you're needed.
He's not the only one, Bob. There's other nutters. Apparently, it wasn't him who did the guard in ebony in the dungeon last week. It was somebody else.
That was some fucking. You took the credit for that one. Unbelievable. That was.
Done what again? Sorry, in the dungeon.
Did you not see the one last week, Andy, of Gad and Ebony in the dungeon?
Oh yeah, I did. Sorry, I don't know.
It wasn't him. I don't know if it was Danny Young.
We got to bring back. Steve, can we bring back the video of the Gad with the one-off OnlyFans for the playouts tonight? I think we need to see that one more time when he goes, can we see your legs? Can you show us your stiff leg? Would you get your torque?
Yes.
Yeah,
put your leg up here. Put it up on the fence here.
I'll try if I can.
Dirty bastard.
Yeah. Well, Talking of the guard, it wouldn't be the week without the guard featuring. Top Rank wanted someone to do their American coverage. It was the guard himself, and Joe Burns jumped into the Boxing Nutters messenger group. Get a life with this one.
Put back on that picture of God, Steve. Can you go back to God there?
Yeah.
Doesn't he look like he's hanging out in Pride of Rocha a bit too? Is this spreading throughout boxing? What's going on here?
He's no, Rob. He's hanging about the shower room to see who takes a shower. That's what's happening there.
How do you get your torque? How do you get your torque to the one-off OnlyFans? How do you get your torque?
Oh, he's class, isn't he? He's almost as bad as Oscar. He was sober, but he tweeted out during the week, guess Holly Saunders' boob size and win 2 ringside seats to Saturday's Golden Boy card live on the YouTube theatre.
What?
And that's his missus, isn't it? The one that's with him. So she tweeted back. She was like, "They're brand new. They're babies." And then she put another.
Get a lot one by the way.
Oh, hello, listen, Andy. She might have been subtweeting you because she went on a bit of a tirade. And she said, "If you're the type of guys that say, ooh, I hate fake boobs, big lips, and all this shit, then you're not for me."
I fucking do, by the way.
Subscribe to my OnlyFans.
I mean, listen, I would bring so much Kavorka to that relationship, by the way. She'd fucking melt. Fucking titties and the lips would fucking melt, man. If I was any more man, it'd be fucking 2 of me standing next to her, by the way. So she's fucking lucky.
She's got a nice
Go on,
personality,
Oscar.
Andy.
Go on, Oscar.
I hope she's not putting all these thoughts in Oscar's head about this Rocha fight. It could be her.
I think so. Oh, Ferrero Rocha. Right, let's move on. What are we on to next? AB, looking well there.
Wow.
Hey, belly.
Look at that. Aye, about bellies.
Well,
as
Nathan Newman said, Andy, I think he's maybe been on the Conor Ben tablets, AB, afterbirth.
Just put that placenta there for us, Adrian, please.
Apparently, he's come out of a bad spot, like where he was drinking up to like fucking 30 drinks a day and passing out every day. And that, like, so good to see him back in the ring. No, we do know.
There's his list. There's his list.
I sent you the pictures of him in the hospital. Remember he's in the lift, fucking sleeping on a fucking medical cart. He's taken up into the hospital, stuck in the shower because he's reeking of booze. He's pissed himself. He shit his pants. They strip him naked. They stick him on a fucking disabled seat and stick him under the shower to wash him off. He's a fucking degenerate.
People
man.
could say that there might have been warning signs about Broner over the last few years if we've been paying attention.
Aye, to me at least. If you listen to me, I'd have told you. He's a fucking waster.
That's his list there, Andy.
I'm hating him this week.
There's his list there.
Right.
COVID, weight gain, verbal abuse,
relationship, alcohol abuse, sexual temptation.
What's number 6? Baby mom. I thought that said
tell me about it.
Baby mom.
Self-depression, mental health, frenemies, court cases, housing situation. Oh, so he's got a housing problem. Poor money management. Yeah, he's broke as fuck. Porn addiction. Club addiction.
Rob looks at that and he's like, have you ever rubbed one out to a 130-pound champion on Instagram? I don't think so. Step aside, amateur.
Listen to this one.
I look at that and I think,
listen
not looking forward to Monday.
Number 20. Pancreatitis that resulted in my gallbladder removal.
Shit.
Yeah.
So he's not going to like it to the body, is he?
What's self-notification? What does that mean?
Twitter, I think.
Oh, I'm going to say non-stop notification. Oh, look, I feel sorry for AB.
Yeah, it's all right, man. I hope he fucking gets it back. I hope he gets it back.
I told you all. Like Muhammad Ali did back in the 60s. I told you all that when the
this
day
goes
comes,
all you suckers that write the Rank magazine.
I will be in Ohio and I'll be pissing on his gravestone one day, by the way. Trust me.
Fuck's sake, poor AB, Andy. Come on.
Jesus Christ. I thought you like AB now. I thought you got fun. What's this? What's going on?
I was actually defending him last week, but fuck him this week.
He's sure not going to be able to find him in Canastota.
Who's this?
Frank?
Frank?
Look at the neck, man.
In the Photoshop amazing work, man. Looks like security guard at Lidl.
He's enjoying himself, Frank. What else have we got here then? Oscar De La Hoya predicts Ryan Garcia, Gervonta Davis fight will draw near 2.5 million pay-per-view buys. Matty?
What's going on, Rob?
Was he?
I gave you him, so I must be getting feedback on that one. Bring us back in again, Steve. 2.5 million buys.
Flip me.
I bet it'll do a million. I bet I'll do it 1 million, but he's
Yeah.
only off. So he's off
to
at
be interesting,
1.5.
actually, see if it does make that says a lot for both guys, John Power, like, because Garcia's got his own fan base, and Javante's obviously this rising star. So a bit,
Someone ringing me. Sorry, someone ringing me during the fucking podcast. For fuck's sake.
Wasn't your man looking directions again? Was it?
No, someone else. Fucking. Oh, for fuck's
you want
sake.
this pizza, mate?
No. Anyway, on rival work, Chris Glover is back on the scene. Dear Boxing, I love you. You make me happy when skies are grey. He's enjoying himself, Chris. He's having a good time over in America. Who can begrudge him that?
10 o'clock's the fucking cut off, by the way, for ringing someone, isn't it? Like, you don't fucking ring 25 past 10, for fuck's sake.
Shout out to Jason Chuck, who's in the chat. I don't usually put up DMs, but you'll see at the end he's given me permission for this one. This isn't necessarily a boxing one, and I do chastise Chuckwu for his non-boxing related Bellew of the Weeks. But I just thought this absolutely summed him up during the week. I don't go on Twitter anymore, Andy, as you know. I logged in this week just to find a video that I knew it was on Twitter. I couldn't find it anywhere else. And Chuckwu had slid into my DMs with this classic. I know you Boxing Asylum guys always joke about me coming late, no homo. But I'm genuinely stunned to find out that Glenn Roeder has passed away.
Has he? I didn't know that either. Cheers, Chuckwu.
I was watching the above video, 20 minutes or so, and the guy said, RIP Glenn Roeder. And I was like, huh? Maybe I saw this, but I couldn't remember. I genuinely didn't know. I remember when he managed West Ham during the 2002-03 season, and he had to leave. I was getting into football heavily. I remember him managing Newcastle. This is sad for real. I don't know how I missed this. I know I'm probably going to be Bellew of the Week because of this.
I think old Chuckwu's been smoking all that stuff, by the way.
And he just keeps going.
Aye. I must have thought he was talking to someone else. Like I did with Matty the other night. I actually posted something in the fucking chat. And Matty's like, oh, I've got a Germany, Emma. I said, oh, fuck it, it was meant for the wife.
Like, focus, are not getting any of the ones I'm supposed to send to my wife.
The one that Ozzy posted us by with the young Gage.
Oh, Jesus.
Unable to handle the old man milk. Good bastard.
Oh, sorry, Jason, but fair enough. It was well worth logging back into Twitter. Glenn Roeder, eulogy.
Oh, dear God.
But Boxing Kingdom, would you fight John Fury in a no-rule street fight for $1 million? The Doc jumps in. Yes, I can fight him and technically best him.
Oh, the Doc.
Oh,
We'd love to see it.
I mean,
where's your fucking
weight,
billboard, Dr.
I'd love to
Joseph,
see
if
that.
you're serious
If you
about
make
it?
weight on old okra soup.
Can you use a knife?
He'll be jabbing. He'll be jabbing. I'll be jabbing. I'll be jabbing.
What a...
That's one of the best ones yet.
Job. Gotta be job.
Try the jab. The largest roster ever. This computer games took about 10 years to come out. You've got the greatest fighters of some of the greats here. You can be Joe Louis, you could be Deontay Wilder, a bit of a stretch, but Katie Taylor, one of the greats, Canelo Alvarez,
David Adelaide,
Rocky Marciano, and David Adelaide.
It makes sense somewhere in the metaverse, I guess. Fucking hell.
It maybe makes sense to this guy. Anthony Yarde exposed Artur Beterbiev. Spencer Fear on immediate reaction.
Give it a break, man.
Exposed him.
If Anthony Yarde exposed Beterbiev, then what the fuck did Enrico Colin do with his fucking negativity?
Fucking exposed him to potential hand injuries.
You know, exposed him to fucking sleeping.
That's like fucking Rolly Romero saying that he exposed Tank Davis after getting knocked out by him. Like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, exposed what exactly?
Exposed
that you were fighting up until you got knocked out. It was.
The thing is, I can remember actually getting stood up like a fucking statue, man. You can actually see his actual eye movement to the centre of the ring. He's like, I am fucked, right? And that's what happened. Absolute ice. And he's still talking shit. He thinks he's going to fight Spence next for some. I think he said, "Fucking idiot."
Good old Spencer.
He's good value though.
He is indeed. Holly, the only female in the Boxing Nutters Messenger group, she's not afraid to give it out. She put this one in last night. She says, what a fight.
Phone number?
So jealous of those, I managed to block it this time, of you who were there, just dropping a Bellew of the Week for my dad. Martin Lewis, not the money man, who claims a fight can't be deemed great unless it's gone at least 7 or 8 rounds. We joked he'd be asking for his money back if he was at Hagler Hearns. He's a complete casual, but was getting really arsey about it, so deserves the nomination. Well, Matty, as you'll know, many messages later, this got turned back on Holly, and now we want Martin Lewis in the Boxing Nutting message group.
Yes, that was the goal. But yeah, we thought of a lot of fights in there too. But yeah, I don't know what to say. I kind of already got my fill of this in the morning when I dropped like 10 fights off the top of my head. So sorry.
You're right there, Matty.
You dragging that in deep, mate. Drag it in, baby.
Disgraceful.
Drag it. Remember when it hits the lunch team pretty quick? So fucking suck it, baby. Suck it.
No, I didn't even. I just like, I'm kind of lost on this one. I'm like, yeah, we already had this discussion. I can't remember what I said. So, damn you, Nutters group. Damn you, taking my best material.
Hey, Matty, whose brain would be better donated to scientific research, yours or B-Hop's?
B-Hop.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I mean, that was like a senile granddad talking there, but he was always movements and that. But he still spoke a lot of truth.
So I told you that, didn't I? That was my first
You need to read
exposure
the
into the
memoirs about
boxing
the Ali act,
crossover.
by the way. That's what you need to go and do.
It was kind of like listening to Dick Gregory after he got diagnosed with dementia. Like, all the shit he was saying sounded crazy as fuck, but there are some nuggets of truth.
See,
in
but
there.
honest no matter. I've listened to
Like
I remember when B-Hop was on the OTG podcast. I'm talking about 15 years ago, easy, right? And I've listened to one Bunch's podcast. He is a guy who, if you ask him one question, you'll never speak again for at least 40 minutes.
I was on the fucking Underground podcast and I interviewed him. Well, it was me and R.A. the Rugged Man, and it was my first ever boxing crossover. And it was Mauro Ronaldo, and then this. So I really fucking took a downward trajectory. But,
how the fuck do you end up here?
But I just basically like I love B-Hop, like, so I was like basically like, yeah, I thought you got robbed like against Kazagi. Like, do you think like you know, because you said I never lose to a white boy, that you got to pay it back, like, because I knew he'd love that, like.
Didn't his phone cut out, you said? Or
Yeah. So he talked so long that his battery went answering that question. He's gone back to Jim Brown in the 1960s and everything, man. He was fucking got all over the place.
That's what he's like. You ask him a question, he'll never speak again. I'm telling you.
The phone cut, the interview was over. Time. And everyone was kind of blaming me, like it was like, "God damn, Rob, he fucking." And I was like, "Shit, man, I didn't think he was gonna go that long."
Aye, that's what he's like. Honestly, you've got to be in major control of him, because he will just go off and major. Look at he's like in that interview there. Okay, he's a bit of ramble, but at the same time, he made a lot of good fucking points and a lot of sense in the end. In the end, I did say. You know, it kind of took a bit of time to get there, but honestly, anybody who's raging, because I did see people were actually raging in the chat there when we played the video. Oh, B-Hop, we get to the point. What's he trying to say? That is B-Hop, and it always has been. It just seems to be that he's getting worse.
Yeah, he's getting worse. Like, I think one of the best things about him was that when he was in that run late into his 40s, that he still was sharp and he still was witty and he still was like, he'd go off in tangents and all. Of course, he could never get to a point, but it wasn't like. After the Kovalev and Smith fights, man, there's definitely a noticeable fucking deterioration. Like myself, from when I started this pod until now.
Yeah, we all get there. A couple of beers. It's not a bottle of whiskey these days. It's a couple of beers and we're fucking washed, man.
Must be near 60 now, B-Hop, wouldn't he be?
No,
yeah, it's got to be, isn't
it?
No, that makes
55 for that, is he? 55?
Mid-50s.
He's got to be 56. Has he? He thought he was 49.
He was 50 when he fought Joe Smith Jr. And
he's got to be 57, 56 then.
58? Told you, I was right. He's 58.
He's not 60 then. He's 60.
I know, but I said I thought he was 58 after. I was getting there, slowly but surely.
Silly, man.
Like B-Hop.
The thing is, he was a fighter too that kind of like, you know, took his own career under his own wing at one point, didn't he? Fought for it.
Yeah, he's in his 59th year.
Yeah. But I'd be interested to see him in 10 years' time, by the way, how he's fucking stacking up, like, I tell you. If still alive.
He might be on the podcast with us.
Oh, can you imagine it?
We get fucking 3 hours every week then.
If we've got a 3-hour podcast, but a fucking 33-hour podcast you'll get that week. Fucking hell.
Right, Tony Bellew had his say last night after Beterbiev'S beat Anthony Yarde. He says, styles make fights and people are all going to shoot me down here, but I'm going to say it anyway. Callum Smith knocks Beterbiev out within 6
I'm telling
rounds.
you, it's no back the Brit, it's back the fucking Scouser, isn't it? That's what it's all about.
The guy that's on the zone.
Yeah.
Fuck
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's unlike him to back a lad from Liverpool who's fighting on the zone, who's going to keep Beterbiev on the zone ahead of a potential fight with Bivol on the zone. So it wouldn't be like him to be banging the company drum. Tony, I tell you what, man, if he wants to disappear, take a leaf out of James the Gale's book. We've never fucking seen or heard from James DeGale since he retired. He was cocky, he was mouthy. We hated him, we loved him. We hated him again, we loved him again. And he pissed off, and we've never fucking seen him since. Right? He's not back with a hair transplant like George Groves. He's not fucking everywhere like Tony Bellew. He's just fucking disappeared and enjoying his retirement. So Bellew can do that anytime he chooses. I wish he would choose, because the fucking shit he comes out with. And like, I don't even follow him. I just get to see it because it gets put uphill. But my God, like, who's watching that Beterbiev'S performance last night and thinking, I think Callum Smith has his number, you know? Absolutely fucking nobody, like, apart from our tone.
Good lad, Tony. Yeah, Kevin Ajako jumping in as well. Shout out to Jay Don, who's thrown in 179. He says, just lost £15 on the Tyan podcast.
Yeah, they're firing the money in there last night. They were after our post-fight pod. Fucking all about, oh, Jesus. Good luck to him, though. It's not like I'm all about the super chats or the woke asylum.
We must be doing something right. Oh dear. Final one, Andy. You sent this one in to me. Kell Brook dropped some money underneath the table last night, and he was bending underneath trying to find it there, having a good time at his party.
Chasing the old dragon there last night, Kell. Listen, we don't want to judge. Man can do what he wants, when he wants, how he wants. He's retired at the end of the day and that. But it did take me back, actually, back in the very early days of Twitter. And I'm talking, when was the Callum Brook fight first mooted? I mean, very first mooted.
2012, 2014, wasn't it?
So I can remember Cam making a tweet roughly around about this time that apparently Brook had been seen in the clubs of Sheffield. Don't know what clubs we're talking about here, like, but apparently he had to do, you know, the old council. But can't end up deleting that tweet. I did get a screenshot of it all the years ago, and I was trying to find it today, and I could not fucking find it. But yeah, it'd be interesting though. But his agents come out now and said as well about him. What was it? It was a joke, or he didn't really take it, or something along those lines.
Apparently, you've never seen somebody use a jeweler's loop.
This shit, I hate this about the.
But they've sold it. They've sold it to the fucking Britain. Sports. You say sports.
Like the guy's retired. Like, he's fucking retired. Who gives a shit what he's doing? Like, it's not like he's a fucking grown man, and he's after having to go through some fucking abuse, and like, we've given it to him as well. Don't get me wrong. I was part of the people who were giving him pelters over the years, joking about him and that. Like, he's had a fucking, you know what I mean? He's had to put up with a lot. Like, and he's in retirement now. He's not fighting anybody. Who gives a fuck? Like, and like, everyone in boxing, like, they're all so concerned about him. Oh, I hope he gets the help he needs. You know where that cocaine from? That's
he's fine, man. He takes that fucking first line. He's ready to go, ready to party.
I always say that though. Do you remember Scott Fitzgerald? Oh, we should be helping him. Or where's that? What happened to that? Anyone helping him?
Exactly. They couldn't have done that. If I join
all the Samaritans, all the boxing Samaritans are out now. Like, and they're also concerned about Kell Brook struggling after boxing and all, like, taking a bit of coke when fucking after they're sitting in their houses and driving their cars that were fucking financed off dope money, man. You can't make this shit up. Honestly, just leave Kell Brook alone. Let him have a fucking party, man. He's not hurting anyone, is he?
Like, if I'm his publicist, I'm going to tell him, this is your answer. I don't use cocaine. I just like the smell of it.
It's like the alcoholic. They say, you've got a drinking problem. No, I don't. I like it.
The fighters go through it, whatever, with the training camps, and they put themselves through fucking so much shit that we can't understand. But they get paid a lot much more money than we can ever fucking dream of, the fellas that are at the top level. So, you know, Hatton's been through the coke addiction. Fucking Calzaghe was dipping in fucking, you know what I mean, the Peruvian magic powder as well. Like, fucking all of them. Like, people's like, oh, we'll try getting up for work every fucking Monday and have some real problems. You know what I mean? Like, I fucking, my sympathy only fucking extends so far. Like,
I bet they're not sniffing the fucking 0.25% fucking pure cocaine. I bet it's like fucking the real McCoy that they're getting their hands on.
Primo.
Aye. Primo Canera. That's
fentanyl. Don't worry, Andy. It's just fentanyl.
Aye, fentanyl, exactly, mate.
Jesus Christ.
Fucking hell.
No, but like, if he's in trouble, like, obviously wish him well in that. But if he's just fucking, do you know what I mean? He's not even fighting. Like, for fuck's sake, like, leave him alone.
If he's having a party or something like that, man. If he's having a party or a fucking night in, a few beers, watching the boxing, a fucking couple of lines and a fucking talk.
Are you sure he's not snorting Special K?
Yeah, well, it's like K, I mean.
Special K was his nickname. That was the Joker.
Oh yeah, thank you, Rob. I'm glad somebody was with me. Yeah, only we remember nicknames and like to party. These other two.
Tell you what though, like, whoever sold that to the papers, well, fucking get yourselves a life.
Scumbag. That's the guys who need to get a life out, right?
They're the belly of the week for that. Whoever sold that to the paper, and I tell you what, He's fucking taken a turn for the worse since he started hanging out with Ebbs, hasn't he? Maybe he'll have to rise like the Phoenix, mate.
Yeah, he's no finger blasting her.
Australians are fucking dangerous, man. They're fucking crazy, out of their goddamn minds. I mean, they're a lot of fun, but they're out of their fucking minds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They need Father Dave
He's
in their
nice,
lives. They need Father Dave. I'm telling you.
He's a priest, you know.
Yeah. What a guy, Father Dave. Everyone should go back and check that interview, by the way. He gave up his time and all that. After
It is
fucking getting
great.
lambasted for 18 months on the pod every week by a bunch of total strangers.
I felt so guilty at like 5:05 a.m. after we tuned. I was like, oh, okay. He's just a nice guy. We're there flipping, like, calling him
he's like, that guys think you fucking suck.
Father Dave.
This is Father Dave, and you're listening to the Boxing Asylum podcast.
Father Dave's out there trying to like keep kids off of drugs, and we're making jokes. We're fucking terrible people.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, someone mentioned the Billy Joe Saunders leaks there with Ben Shalom, but I wasn't really following along to that, so I don't know what was going on there. Rob, any nominations from you this week, please?
Yeah, I think the Billy Joe one's worth a shout. Like, he's basically accusing Shalom of tapping up fighters and that, and putting out exchanges between them on WhatsApp, and then accusing them of doing coke. Of course, Billy Joe would be against all that kind of stuff. He wouldn't advocate for anybody involved in that kind of thing. So, lack of self-awareness from Billy Joe again this week. Like, out again talking about Eubank getting smashed up. We haven't seen him since he got beaten by Canelo. So, yeah, that was pretty bad. And what was it? There was a couple of other ones, but yeah, I probably remember him, or maybe I won't. I'll do a Tibbs on it.
Rob was about to say something. He can't remember. Andy, what are you going for this week, nominations-wise, please?
I've got one for Eddie, obviously, straight off the bat. After the fight last night, it's a great effort from Anthony Yarde. Callum Smith v Beterbiev'S. Next, winner versus Bivol for undisputed. Ed, fuck off. We don't want Callum Smith anywhere near. Look at your TV screens. Beterbiev, Bivol, please. When you want, how you want, fucking anytime you want as well. But we know you won't make it because does it make you dollars? Does it make sense?
He's doing a lot of talking about other people. Andy, have you noticed that? Like, most of his interviews these days are like half-hour interviews about other fucking fights that he's not involved with.
Really, Eddie wouldn't do that, mate.
And he's wearing a lot of fucking. He's wearing a lot of Jordan dunks and young people's tracksuits as well. I have no idea what that's all about. Evening, Ed. How are you, pal?
Fucking evening, son. So I'm gonna. What was So I'll put an Eddie, mate. I've not really got any other nominations.
No problem. Matty, who nominations from you, please?
I actually don't have any this week, Steve.
Oh, that's a shame. Nothing from Oz. Right, let's have a quick.
Oh no, I had one. Sorry, it was the woman last night who was doing the post-fight interview with Beterbiev, where she just fucking wanted to make the interview only about Anthony Yarde. She was like, "Yes, Arthur, you've won the fight, but you were hurt, Arthur, weren't you?" It was like, you know, the fucking Phoenix Night scene. It was like, your mum, she were young. No, she was young in herself, John, weren't she? Yeah. He hurt you, Arthur, didn't he? Not really. But he shook you up, Arthur, didn't he? To the core. He shook you all night long.
Why don't you tell us before you both get hurt?
Yeah, her. And then there was Conor Bain, obviously, for his fucking threat to the head of the BBFC, who came out and said we didn't get any of the fucking documents that they're saying they supplied to the WBC. We're still waiting on them. Like, and Conor Bain said, "Well, you're going to be here for my lawyers." So, fucking complete lack of self-awareness for him on the meltdown trail. But yeah, that's about as exciting as it gets this week.
Lovely stuff. Let's have a quick recap then, shall we? We had Mark Tibbs ejaculating. We had B Hop. I don't know whether that's Bellew of the Week or not, but we'll give him a shout out. We had Frank looking dapper. We had Kell and his exploits. We had Bellew nominated for the Callum Smith exploits. We had Holly and her dad's beef. We had Spencer Fearon as well being nominated, the computer game. Joseph Ajayo going in on John Fury. We had Glenn Roeder, he's dead, you know. And we got Chris Glover. We had the pay-per-views from Oscar, AB again, AB coming in with the third one. We had Oscar again for the boobies. We had the Gad. Always good to have the Gad being nominated as well. But Christopher Lovejoy, Chalmers against Mayweather, and the escapades over in Bolivia between Saul Farah and Pedro Guanichaba. I'm sure there's many more, Matty, but that's all we've got this week. Who are you going for?
You know, I just because we haven't seen him in a while, let's go with Sal Farah and let him know that we haven't forget him. The king of Bolivia reigns on.
Stamped into Bolivian rather, Andy. It's Sal Farah getting the nomination there, and the pick from Matty. Who are you going for?
I'm not going to go for Bellew actually, because it was just atypical of Bellew to pick fucking Callum. He did it against Canelo as well for Callum Smith. It would be too easy. Eddie for his fucking clout chasing. But I'm trying to think now. Who was the other one? What was the earlier one? Sorry, I'm trying to remember now. There was that one. There we go. There's my winner. The Floyd one. Literally recycling the same fucking fight poster. After saying that, I said to you guys, well, that Liam Harrison's a fucking real fighter. Floyd's going to have to fucking watch what he's doing, because he might just meet a guy who's just fucking, going to chin him out, and then obviously I need surgery, and then he gets this guy. I didn't know this was the same guy that, as Rob mentioned, the guy with the green sleeve on Channel 5 a few months ago. So going for this one.
Scenes if he beats him. Rob, you requested earlier, and I've delivered in the background here. Unrivaled work. This might sway you.
Were you talented at sports growing up anyway?
No, absolutely not.
Oh, really?
No talent. Absolutely. I have zero talent.
Because you got powerful legs. How did you get the physique? Was it gym, or how did you get the physique?
I've always been.
She's actually not got powerful legs.
Yeah.
Have you not noticed how powerful her legs are? But your power comes through your core, through your legs, through your talk, doesn't it?
Yeah. No, and I think that's Mark Tibbs.
Those aren't legs, by the way.
I know I've got strong legs, but
Can we get the legs up over the barrier?
But no, the hips and shoulders, that's Mark Tibbs. That's Mark Tibbs training.
Elle was up on stage earlier. Yeah. Powerful legs.
Powerful legs.
I think that's a great way.
Jesus fucking Christ.
That
guy makes women dry. Every woman within a 5-mile radius of Gad is dry. I'm just telling you now.
He's got the yearly subscription there, hasn't he? Like, yes, you tell us about your you've got straw. Have you not noticed her powerful legs, Umar? Her powerful legs. No wonder fucking Tibbs can't find the words. He's fucking prematuro ejaculamente when he's training fucking what's her name, the OnlyFans fucking model for celebrity boxing. So yeah, Tibbs is going to get it from me for the prematuro ejaculamente.
Yeah, I'm going for Tibbs as well, actually. I thought that was a good one. So shout out Mark Tibbs. You are the Bellew of the Week winner for 508. Quick shout out as well to our super chatters. Jay Don threw in a few quid tonight. Ryan Deal, Dr. FMG, Yimi Yappy, and Chris Butler threw us some in last night.
So cool recognising your one straight from the porn star. He fucking has the name and everything. Go on, it's so cool, man. Doesn't know your man's dead, but fucking put a flash of a fucking porn star on that screen. He's gonna name her. He could be wanking himself into Bolivian. Oh, fuck's sake.
Good lad, Chuck. Shout out to Stephen Anthony as well. He loves the Nutters group so much. He's increased his pledge over at patreon.com/Boxing Asylum this week. If you want to get into the Nutters group, if you want to get into the Prediction League, if you want to get access to Punches from the Past and all the other banter, general banter that goes on each week, then join us at patreon.com/Boxing Asylum. Thank you to everyone who's been on tonight. We've had Rob, we've had Andy, we've had Matty, we've had Ozzy. Oh, God. It's been a fun one. Matty will be back in the hot seat for episode 509 next week. We love you all. Thank you for supporting us. Don't forget to hit the like on the way out. I've been Steve Ellington. We'll catch you all again same time. Oh shit, I forgot to get the outro.
I was going to say something there. He was going to say something.
You can't even have fucking boxing in your country. Kiss my ass.
Same time, same place next week. Bye.
We'll never forget.
I think that's going to happen.
We want to be honest, yeah?
Crying like a little bitch. I've never met a fucking swank that can fight me.
I fell asleep.
You're a fucking bum, you're a fucking asshole.
Rumpo fucking Stiltskin.
But allegedly, Oscar Rivas has failed a test.
7 year ain't. I want fucking smash. Fuck you.
I hope you fucking die.
Be safe.
I love boxing silence. As simple as that.